we live right now?
We're not live.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start it right now because
Well, they can hear us. We're live.
Well, yeah, but I'm gonna start the event, and it feels more official.
What happens when you start the event?
I don't know. I think it just does a big notification to everyone in the Discord, and then it just turns into a party. Yeah.
Start your camera, Jason.
Oh yeah, that would be helpful as well. There we go.
Rush, you don't have to start your camera. Jason, I like the new room you're in.
Yeah, Jason, are you at your dad's desk?
Yeah, this is the boomer desk. There was a thing of whiteout on here, a couple of pens, and a stapler, which I feel like I haven't seen any of that technology in quite some time. Yeah,
I still love the fucking size of your pop filter on your microphone.
I know. I was thinking about that today. I was like, I do kind of feel like a little bit of an idiot with this massive pop filter, but I think I've gone too far now. I'm committed.
Jason's all about protection. We know that.
Yeah, I learned my lesson. Okay, well, shit, we're live. We have no real introduction.
Run us through, Jason. What happened? Why are we late?
We're late. So I took the wife and I took the baby for a stroll this morning with the two dogs. Walked around, went to a couple coffee shops for about an hour. It was nice. Came home about an hour before the show was supposed to start to get ready and get them some things situated. And as I was making the dogs breakfast, all the power in my house went out. All the little applications started beeping and trying to power back on. So I had to pack everything up and drive over to my parents' house. And then when I got here, we should have still been on time, but I realized I forgot something critically important to the show, which you guys are going to love this because I am known for forgetting just one thing.
Your dad brain has been on fire.
I know. Guess what I forgot? Of everything I could have forgotten. No guesses?
Wow,
okay,
that's
great. It was it was the entire laptop. I just forgot to pack the laptop in its entirety, so I had to go back to the house. I brought the microphone, brought the stand, brought the webcam, and I forgot the laptop. So I felt like an idiot. So that's why we're late.
Did you leave the family at home?
Yeah, Jane's putting the baby down for a nap. They're all chilling at home.
Do they have power?
No, they have no power. Hopefully it will be resolved.
So you've just left your family to fend for themselves in a house with no power.
Yeah, but stop describing it as a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like we've all spent an afternoon without power. It's nice. It's sunny out.
Well, I don't know.
And he's in Michigan. It's fine. It's not like, a dangerous place, like a big city or anything.
Rush, are you going to talk or what?
Hello? I was hoping I'd get an introduction or something.
What do you mean? Everyone can see you're in here.
Well, yeah. Well, the listeners on this is being recorded, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, well, there we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right,
introduce me, Chad. Introduce me.
I'll give you an introduction. And for the first time in a long time, joining us direct from Cologne, Germany, it's Rushley Ranger. Are you in danger?
Yeah, what's going on, right? Not right now, but all right. How was everybody?
Like that?
Yeah, that was good. That was not bad.
You know him as the host of Get Animated. That
is true. Yes.
An infrequent segment that we
very infrequent. Yeah.
So I guess
our best segments.
Yeah, it's a strong segment. I'm surprised we haven't done it more. What's new in the Get Animated world, Rush?
To be honest, there's nothing I've been watching, so I can't really speak on Get Animated this time. We're still cooking. The summer season's not very good.
Look, I want to give a preamble here, Rush, because a few episodes back, I did mention that I was going to get you on the show to talk about an exclusive medical procedure. We're not going to talk about that medical procedure today, so we'll
next time. Not for 100, not for 100, for 101 maybe.
Big for 100, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
101, okay. Yeah, but
don't want to derail too much.
We'll definitely talk about it in the future, the medical procedure. Some people might argue elective, others might not. Regardless, we'll get to it at a point. But you are here today to express something to the gaming world. Do you want to get stuck into this, or do you want to keep the pleasantries going for a little while?
I think we can do. Like, I'm sure you all have heard of this Snap Tap.
It's a hot topic.
Little discussion. It's a very hot topic at the moment. So I thought I'd, see if you heard about this, Yanko, Jason.
Yeah, this is the Razer keyboard versus
absolutely.
the wooting keyboard kind of debate, right?
Yes, Razer did it first, from what I'm aware, and then the wooting came in and then followed up. Chad has left. That is a little bit worrying, by the way. All right. Well, yeah, so as you all know, if the SnapTap has come in and it's a null bind, as people are saying on the forums and things like that, So if people don't know, which I'm pretty sure everyone does, when you press a left key, let's say, and then you start to press the right key, it cancels the left key, and then you're instantly counter strafing. And yeah,
I feel we haven't done enough of a preamble. To be
you can
fair,
do more.
we,
You can
can
do
we
more.
start again? Can we start?
Go
again?
on. Yeah.
So,
So basically, what I came to talk about, right? We can cut this out, right? What I came to talk about is Snap Tap.
wait.
Have you guys, Jason Yanka, have you heard of this?
Yeah, it's that
You
whole
become-
Yes,
Razer
I
versus
am familiar
wooting.
with the term.
Yeah.
And you left building, bro, so you can't really
We've
get
been
on to me.
Listen. We've spoken about the keyboards before on the show, right? We did talk about the wooting before on the show and the
Wooting, yeah.
analog variety. We talk about rapid trigger, right? Rapid trigger is an important part of this conversation, wouldn't you say?
Rapid trigger, I guess so, yes, but that has been going on a while. It is a combination of rapid trigger in a way, right? So.
Oh no, definitely so. But the analog keyboard, I think that's the important context that's missing here, because today you're basically going to be going up against Optimum Tech and Flom, who have definitely put some inflammatory opinions out there regarding this keyboard. So I think it's important that we get all of these pieces of information bang on, Rush. So I just wanted to make sure you get your bases covered here, because you are going to be going to war with some big influences in the space. So
Right,
the
Jesus.
wooting keyboard that has existed now, I think the initial wooting keyboard came out, like 7 years ago, Rush?
The original TKL, I believe so, yes.
And so an analog keyboard, the difference between an analog keyboard and a mechanical keyboard is what?
Basically, the keyboard knows how much you're pushing down the key. On a standard mechanical keyboard, you're pushing the key down, and then there's like an actuation point about halfway down the key or whatever, and then it's on. So there's like a little wiggle room there where it's not on, and also it will only turn off once you've released past that actuation point.
Right.
So with the analog keyboard and rapid trigger, which is something that Wooting were doing probably a year and a half ago, 2 years
Maybe,
ago?
yeah, maybe.
Something along those lines. The rapid trigger was getting everybody very excited, and it's something that Razer then brought into their keyboard in recent history as well. SteelSeries also has a variation of it. There might be other keyboards that I'm not mentioning here that
And
have similar things where you can go in.
Is that actuation occurs as soon as you're pressing the key down, not at a certain
Well, you can
point?
set it. You can set it wherever
Right,
you
right.
want.
And you can
So
change the
you can have-
sensitivity.
Yes, correct.
However, with the
Which is pretty
can
cool.
of worms, the can of worms, which is the important part that now we go into,
Always
is null binds, the SOCD, or SnapTap, which has now been brought in by Wooting as well. They ran a poll, and their users of the keyboard said yes, that you should add it. And this is where the controversy begins. Rush, over to you.
Yeah, so obviously when this dropped, there's a lot of people coming out saying a lot of very crazy things, let's say. Like people were saying things like, well, I might as well get a mouse that just shoots for me or something like that, which I think
Controls
some of
the
this
recoil,
stuff.
I think was the
Exactly. It fully controls. I might as well just walk away from my PC, and the game will just play itself, And my what I want to talk about today is kind of I believe a lot of this is semi overblown to a certain degree. Is kind of what I'm getting to. The comments I've seen are kind of outrageous, saying it's the most OP broken thing ever. I think this is a benefit. Obviously, you are gaining an advantage. I don't think it's a massive advantage, though. I think it's minute. I mean, it's still going to help, but people acting like it's going to break the game, and I want to bring that up today. I see a lot of people saying it's completely broken. I don't think it's to that degree. I think it's such a marginal increase, as marginal, I would say, as the analog keyboard as a whole, because that gives you an advantage, 100%.
I would say that the analog keyboard, for most people who aren't using one, is probably going to be a bigger jump in terms of things feeling more crisp than like the SnapTap. Now, I will make this clear. I tested the SnapTap on Jimmy's laptop back in Chengdu, but I was on a laptop in a hotel. Like, it wasn't like I was shooting in, but it was just aimbot. So it's difficult to kind of get that feel, especially for a boomer like me. But Wooting are hooking me up. They're sending me a full-size Wooting keyboard. Should be here by next week, so I can actually have a bit of a play and test it all out and whatnot. But I think that for most people who are just using like regular keyboards, the best part of this is probably the jump into something that has rapid trigger or an analog keyboard. Because when I jumped to this SteelSeries one, I noticed a big difference as well. It's just with where you'd be releasing the keys. But obviously, these binds, I guess it's built-in binds, right, into the hardware. The conversation is, well, it's allowed. ESL are allowing this. And I think
Isn't
like,
the
I get your
conversation that
point,
they're
Rush.
allowing this and not allowing the commands, the null bind commands?
You're not allowed null binds. You're not allowed to have null binds in a config, but you can have it through the hardware, which
Wouldn't
is
the-
essentially the same thing,
I was
right?
going to say, wouldn't the argument be that it's the same thing? So if you're banning one, why aren't you banning the other?
It's a great question, Jason. We might have to get Mihail
League
Slavinsky on the
ops up
show
in
to
this
talk
bitch,
about that. Or their tournament management
That's
now,
right,
Jason.
tournament
We learned if it's tournament management now.
can't let that
but
be
that
bad.
conversation, it has to be had. But I think that the thing that I would say is you are better off, if it's allowed, you're better off having this than not having this, right? Like,
Yes.
regardless of what Rush is saying, I think that if you, and this is where I see people saying it's pay to win now. Well, like, I think a 540 hertz monitor is better than a 360 hertz monitor or a 240 hertz monitor, or my 4090 is better than Rush's 3080, right? Like, there's a lot of elements there where those conversations could come in. But I guess when they play on LAN, they're all playing on the same PCs with the same monitors. It's the hardware that's the differential. But I think if these players can get their hands on one of these keyboards, they definitely should. I don't know why you wouldn't. It is going to give you an edge. That's it. It's going to go for an edge. I think just fucking get it in your hands. And people are talking about, oh, will it be banned? I don't know. I don't know what the conversation's
I don't
gonna
think
be
it should
because I
be.
saw
But
I don't think
until
it
it's,
should be.
until it's banned, you use it because it gives you the fucking advantage. Like, why wouldn't you?
But Rush, you're saying why don't you think it should be banned?
Well, I just don't think it's the most crazy advantage you can get ever. Like, I think it definitely helps, but it's not like, you know, you suddenly, if someone doesn't have it and you have it, I think you know, it's not gonna win you the fight. I don't know, every time. Obviously, like, it's not that level. You know, it is just a small improvement, I would say. I mean,
Rush, have you
you still have to counter strafe at the end of the day. I mean, people saying, you know, it helps with counter strafing. You still need to understand counter strafing, and I don't know. Counter strafing to me is a mechanic where I don't even think about it. I just do it. You know,
Yeah, but
I
you
never
have
thought
good
about
movement.
it. Sure, but I'm not a professional player.
That's true.
only because you don't want to be?
Exactly.
Doesn't
I
have the
turned down.
competitive
You
drive.
applied yourself.
Liquid
But
gun
have
in
you
for me. You
seen
know.
this? Have you seen this thing like on Reddit with the counter strafing, like the W key, like the guy who put S to his space bar?
Oh, spacebar. Yes, I
basically.
did see that. Yes, that was kind of
Like,
crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
doesn't that look a little bit broken to you when you see that?
I mean, yes. I mean, you could bind S normally, and you would counter strafe slower. It did look a little crazy in the clip. I'm not gonna lie. But I think if you bound S, it would still look close to that. Obviously, the snap tap, you know, and the SOCD that wooting are doing is still better than normal counter strafing. I'm not gonna argue that. It definitely is. But I don't think it's like, you know, this should be banned. We should never allow this or anything like that.
Okay, so
I think one of the things is the genie's out of the bottle now. Like, I don't know how we put it back in.
I don't think we need to. We just
I think
let people do it.
Well, I think this is where like the slippery slope would come into play. Like, if you allow this one, like, where do we stop if like more hardware comes out with crazier improvements? Like, I mean, you know, like,
Okay, if there was a situation where, you know, let's say you're moving to the right, you're pressing D, you let go of D, and then you don't press any of the button, and it completely counter strafes for you fully, that would be terrible. But you still have to press the buttons at the end of the day.
yeah, but it takes the skill of the timing out of everything, right?
I suppose. I mean,
it just does it
I
for you. You no longer
suppose,
have to like
yes.
get the feel for the mechanic and the timing of the mechanic, and especially
If
in
you don't know
pressure
how to, if you
situations.
don't know how to counter strafe, I don't think it will help that much because, you know, you still need to counter strafe is what I'm saying. You still need to build that into your, you know, skill. I would say.
Well, yeah, but like, how many times would you say you fuck up a counter strafe? You know, of like out of 100.
Rush, very rarely.
No idea. I have no
Like,
idea.
surely it's a couple times.
No, I
in
don't
that
think
100,
so.
You know?
I don't
Just
think
like
so.
3, maybe 4.
Leofy says 94% most of the time. So I mean, I don't know. Not often. I'll say that much.
You're getting a lot of pushback on this, Rush. Anything you want to say to the people at home?
I don't know. I mean, I've used both. I've used the razer and I've used the wooting. You know, and like I said, I'm not saying it doesn't give you any advantage. Definitely does. You know, and I don't know until I hear a pro player come out after using it and be like, I wouldn't have got that kill if it wasn't for snap tap. Then maybe I could reconsider. I'm not super firm on my point, but I believe it's not. When I see this stuff where people say it's playing the game for me, I don't know. That's a bit much. I think a lot of people are saying it without trying it, you know?
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, so my opinions on this are kind of limited. I can say from like the explanation and what it seems to do and what I've seen people say it does, it feels like something that shouldn't be allowed. Even if it's not like an egregious improvement, as you're saying, you say it's like kind of marginal. But I still think like the entire concept should just kind of put that on the this is probably something that should be removed list. you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I
You know what I mean?
I'm definitely
Well, all I'm
I'm
gonna
I'm not
say
on that
is-
side.
Nico's using the keyboard and he's playing better. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, in that case, let's allow it. Whatever is going to help Nico get a major.
There's the verdict.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to know if Rush is so good at movement. What's holding you back, Rush, from being a better player?
He has no
What's the
competitive
flaw in
spirit.
Rush's game?
He has no competitive spirit.
No, I just
I'm
get
shocked.
I would say I do. It's more I get personally frustrated and it kind of tries to push me out of it. And I have what I like to call negative genetics, where I was, and I started playing CS too late. Those two combined, every bit of skill or movement or anything, I've fought hard to get. But there's only so good you can get when you start it. Playing
And he
CS
started
18.
in Source, so
Yeah, but all I did in Source was Surf, B-Harp, Zombie Escape. That's all I did in
doesn't matter.
Source.
That's where you got imprinted.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
He
But
also-
the aim,
but-
if I wish I started that earlier.
He also watches an anime about a vending machine, and someone who does that just doesn't have the attitude necessary to be a pro player.
Like the record
You don't
to
have
show
the
that
emotional aggression and will for dominance that you need.
I did not watch that anime. I'm just gonna say. Apparently, it was pretty good though. I might watch it.
I know. We'll say this: Russia's elo on Face It, I don't think is really representative of where his elo should be at on Face It. Unfortunately for him, so I think he's
Should be
I feel-
lower,
I
but
feel
he's
the
playing
same
with
way.
you all the time. And
No,
Justin,
no,
he's
because
getting
we
carried.
play
Echo,
with him
I
and
get no elo in those games.
we
Bro.
get
no elo.
like negative genetics. We get negative elo when we play with Rush. Like we
It's
get like 4 elo.
We have to win 5 games in a row to stay the same if we lose one. I think it's plus
They're the
5
most
minus
stressful
25.
games in the
And
world. Like,
I'm definitely in those lobbies, bro. I'm playing out of my depth, bro. It's wild, bro. The stuff they're doing.
Would it be fair to say, Rush, that sometimes the negative atmosphere in these lobbies, right, and the pressure being put
let's get
onto
to
you
this.
also has a negative impact on your performance, and that if your teammates were a little bit more uplifting in these games and a bit more supportive, that you could actually perform on a higher level?
That's a very interesting topic, Yanko. You know what? I think you're bang on right. I mean, people might not know this, man, but I'm Chad. I'm going into it, bro. Chad is a absolute freak when he's playing CS, man. I don't know. He seems all happy-go-lucky, bro. When we're in the server, if something goes wrong, man, oh my god, you should see the freakouts that this guy has done. It's unbelievable. Confidence-killing freakouts. That is what I'm talking about here. And when that happens, brother, the game's lost. The game's done.
Players I'm dealing with, Yanko. These are the type of players. These absolute fucking pussies.
Jussie, man,
They
you're doing
can't-
that, Aaron, bro. You can't do that, bro. You can't say it's on me, bro. Am I gonna fuck up? Am I gonna make a mistake? Of course I am, bro. Are you kidding me? But when you're freaking out, Jussie, man, are you out of your mind, bro?
Yeah, you are a walking mistake, Rush. There's
All right.
no doubting that, really. I
But he's
think
doing it
though,
to everyone, man.
I think,
It's
though,
unbelievable.
If the English talent in Riyadh had Chad playing and giving a pep talk instead of Alex, I think they bounce back and close out the game. If he called
that's
them
the
out
thing,
a little bit of aggression could be helpful sometimes. Probably not in your case, Rush. You just need someone to uplift you a little bit.
Oh, that would be
That
nice.
is-
I'm not gonna lie. That would be kind of nice. But now Chad's is like not even like he's not trying to rile anyone up in a a mean way and like a good way. Kind of hidden. And like what's that movie Whiplash or what is it? Nothing like that.
What?
He's just freaking out, bro.
Commit suicide, bro. How are you comparing them?
I haven't seen the movie. I just know that he's a bit of a dick. That's all I know. But anyway,
Fucking hell.
but Chad's he freaks out like crazy. I remember there was one pissed around on Anubis. Where
I've
we
seen
drop,
some of
we
the
drop out
clips.
the window.
I've seen the clips of what he's working with, so I kind of understand his perspective as well. I just want to preface all this.
What, Chad's perspective?
Yeah.
What clips?
Don't worry about it, Rush. Go on with your story.
What clips is he talking about? Chad?
Just-
I don't know. I have no idea. Gosh, I'm not starting
Anyway.
this battle. You let
Jason
Yanko
just
Anyway.
stirring
goad
the
you
pot
into
as
this.
always.
Oh, Yanko started this, man. I don't know.
You let Yanko goad you into
But those
it,
is
and
pissed
then
around
you
on
took the
Anubis.
bait.
I'm just going to talk about this. Piss around Anubis. We do the usual thing. We go mid. We drop down. If people are plugging against us now, they know what we're going to do. We do have a few alternates now, but
We got some variations. What are you
we
talking
do,
about?
we do. And then we drop down and we go B through dark or econ, whatever you want to call it. And let's just say it did not go well. We all died. And then Jussie goes in at the end and dies. And he made a comment basically like, "Oh, I shouldn't have gone in, when everyone was dead. He should have, did what Jussie do, walk around the map, kill ace and win or whatever." But after Jussie said that line, let's just say Chad was out of there, gone from TeamSpeak fully, and Mac 10 every round, rushing and dying. That's the whole game.
Look, mate.
Wow.
When Justin
That
makes
doesn't
a
sound very
snide
healthy,
remark,
you know.
when Justin makes a snide remark that he should have been baiting, when he's baiting all the fucking time, you don't take that line down, Rush. Especially as the guy who's in first, mate. So you don't take that shit line down. And I've dealt with Justin shit for years. I'm not fucking taking it in a pug.
See, Rush, he was getting
Remember
heated
your
on
name,
your
Rush.
behalf. He was getting heated to back you up.
It didn't benefit me in the game though, did it?
Okay, that's fair.
We lost our in-game leader. So
I got
mean,
nothing.
I don't know. Well, that's
lose more
Chad's
than
little.
that, mate.
Yeah, I don't know.
You better be. Look, you've let Yanko get in between what has been a great day of DayZ.
It has been a good day of DayZ. I'm not gonna lie.
And we need more barrels.
How you guys doing?
We do need more barrels.
More barrels.
Did you guys make it to that outer space portal or something? Whatever it was you were.
We did
chasing?
make it to Lantia.
Nice.
We did.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very cool. We just
We
need a
visited
spacesuit
Lantia,
now.
guys.
Yeah,
We need a
we do.
spacesuit. We need filament. We need a blueprint. You know.
Okay.
Lantia locator, all the good stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
So, Rush, you still on your keto thing?
Yes, I
Is
mean,
your-
obviously with events and stuff like that, I guess it's
Is
good
it just
to
a
do a
way
little
of life
update.
now?
Kind of. When I'm at home, like not at events, I basically don't really eat many carbs at all. On events now, I'm just kind of eating whatever. Obviously, I went to vacation to Florida, you know, for a couple of weeks, and then to Dallas, so I did eat a lot of food there. But yeah, I think the total number down, I'm 20 kilograms down, which is good. That's
What's that in stone?
I'm trying to think actually. I knew you were going to ask that. Is it 5? I think it's around 5-ish stone or something like that. So a decent amount. I still want to go a bit further. I started at 113 kilograms, little big boy,
It's
and now I'm down to
3.2 stones.
83.
Rush.
3.2. That can't be right.
20 kilograms. 3.2.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 3.2 stone.
The
And
American
I'm gonna
stones, Rush, you know how those guys do
I'm
it.
gonna keep going. I want to go a little bit more. I've still got a little bit of belly fat, you know. I've got a couple of tits I'm still working with, you know. So I'm trying to get rid of them, but you know.
They're nice.
So yeah,
though.
it has gone very well. It has gone very well.
Maybe thinking about
Thank-
keep those ones.
All right, might do.
Okay.
All right. That's good.
Rush, you
man.
got anything else you want to
Go for it.
contribute today?
I don't think so.
We're gonna save we'll save the medical conversation for.
Yeah, there will
for
be a
next
medical.
time.
That'll be a whole thing. That'll be a whole thing.
I'm really excited.
There'll be lots
about
of
the medical
questions for
thing.
that.
Yeah.
If you're interested in CS, do not listen to that one.
Okay.
Well, it could be. We could
Maybe
probably
bring
get
me in
it.
at the end on that one.
Nah. It's always good at the start. It's a soft entry. You're like our Rudy Jules.
Yeah, you warm us up for
Yeah,
the rest of
alright.
the show. You know, you get the crowd going, get them on their feet.
Yeah,
You reckon
something like
any
that.
of our listeners know Bad Friends, Rush?
I'm sure one does. Well, actually, you probably have like 10 listeners, so probably not actually.
Wow.
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 No, I'm kidding. I don't mean that. I'm sure one does. I'm sure 1 or 2 don't do actually.
You've riled up people today with your take on the keyboard.
All right, Rush. I'm gonna
Yeah.
remove your
That
all
is,
powerful
surprising.
role access, and it
Does that
might,
kick me?
I don't know, but we're gonna find out. But if it does kick you, this is
Good,
goodbye.
Jason.
All right.
Thanks for
Am I
coming,
still
Rush.
here? Am I here?
It hasn't.
Well, I
kicked
want
you.
to leave on my own. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
you gotta leave
Nice.
on your own terms now.
So
Alright.
anyway, I don't really have anything else. But that was my conclusion on the snap tap. I wanted to come in and talk about that. I feel like people are demonizing it a little too hard, to be honest. And I think what wooting and razer are doing, I don't think it's the analog is already a bigger step up, and even that is like not a crazy step up. I think the snap tap, I'm not that against it. People saying it's aiming for you, they're like playing the game for you. I don't believe it, but that's just what I think. Might be an L take, might be a W take. I don't know.
We'll see how it ages.
Time will tell. Time will tell. I'm still early on this. My opinion can change.
I think general consensus at the moment is it's an L, but you know how those things might change. Maybe 6 months down the road. So stay strong, Rush.
Yeah, I will. I ain't lose sleep about it.
All right, Rushley, man. We'll
How do I
see you
leave
for
this
some
thing,
DayZ.
man?
I think
I
you
think
click
you hit
leave
the thing at the bottom that says leave the stage.
Same email, Jason, for the what was it? MP3 file or
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
or is that
I
a WAV
prefer,
file?
actually.
Is it a WAV file?
MKV. Convert it for me.
As long as we can
MKV.
play it in VLC.
All right. All right.
All right, Rush.
All right, I'm pressing the button. I'll see you later.
All
Bye.
right, man. Peace, man.
Bye, Russian.
Yeah, he riled everybody out. Rush doesn't usually have controversial takes, but the fact
I
he's
was-
come in with his take on the snap tap.
I was surprised at that take. I was surprised that was the perspective that he had on it. You know what I mean? Like, what do you guys think? If we can actually get into
I
it
don't care.
from a serious, you don't care? Yanko, do you have any
I don't care.
hard feelings one way or the other?
I don't have any hard feelings because also I'm not as educated on the topic like on the technicalities of it. Because on one side, if it's the same thing that's banned in game, if you put the commands in and now the hardware is doing it for you, like shouldn't it still be banned because you're just getting the same thing through a different vehicle, right? But then you could say, well, that's just the hardware getting better, the same way optic laser mice is better than the ball mouse, right? Like, so
Sure.
I guess it depends where you look at it. And also, I think Rush had a point in how big of an advantage is it actually, right? Like, yeah, it makes it easier because the key is more receptive of the command or whatever. I just feel like an idiot just talking about this. Like,
so the way it
what are we
works is,
talking
right,
about?
Yanko?
We're talking about the minutia of it, right? Like it's strafing, counter strafing, which is a small part of movement, which is a small part of the game of Counter-Strike, right? So I don't think at the end of the day it's going to be a game-breaking thing if you're playing with it and people are allowed to play with it.
You should use it if you can get your hands on the keyboard. You should definitely use it, because the fact is, the way that the snap tap or the null binds or the SOCD, whatever you want to call it, the way that it works is, if I'm holding A and I'm strafing left and I press D, E will override A. So I will stop in that moment and I will have perfect accuracy.
Yeah.
There's no delay, right? That's the thing there. But I am currently in the mind that this is an evolution of technology. I don't see how we put the genie back in the bottle, especially with online. Like, how can you do it online? How do I know what keyboard someone has plugged into their computer? So for the average user, if you're playing matchmaking or whatever and you have a bit of money lying around and you want to get a better keyboard, buy a Razer or buy a wooting, right? And use it. Like, if we're talking about for LAN events and Pro CS, then maybe there's a conversation to be had. But otherwise, like, just fucking use it. Like, I know that's probably not a base take by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think we're putting this back in the bottle. That's all. I think it's out there now, and that's what's going to be.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because I think my take is, like, even if it's an evolution of hardware, like, if that's the way we want to take it, what happens with, like, the next evolution that might be a step above that? What happens if there's the next evolution that actually does get more in line with this actually feeling like it's some kind of crazy advantage that it provides? But I don't know.
We could go down the rabbit hole with all of this shit. Like, back when we played 1.6, the radar was literally green, and it only had dots of your teammates.
Yeah, it didn't
and if
have
your
outlines
teammates
of the
were on a
map,
higher or lower level, it had a fucking T. And then in Source, they added information. And then in CSGO, we've refined that information. Like, now, if you play the radar properly, you can see the radar blinking on the radar. The bomb blinking on the radar when it's not in your line of sight. And you can tell after in a certain period of time if they pick that bomb up, because it will stop blinking on the radar. Like, the information that you could, like, I can sit here and bitch and moan.
That's built into the game, though.
But it's the same. Like, for me, I understand what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
this is the game adjusting things, but people are pushing back over these same things all the time, right? Like, when CS2 came out and then it had the noise, right? It had the noise thing. That was like, well, that's not fair. We're showing new players like how far the sound emanates. Like, I had to learn that. That's, like, people are saying, yeah, that's available for everybody. Well, I assume that if you're one of these keyboard companies, that you should probably add it to your keyboard. I don't know why SteelSeries have an analog keyboard. I don't know why they haven't added it yet. Like, I don't know why it should just be, you know what I mean? Like, now that Wooting's done it, based on community feedback, it's probably going to happen for everybody. Like, that's what
a
I
fair
think
point.
is going to happen.
And your point about online too, like, hard to police that, especially in online competitions, is fair too.
Can't police it at all.
Yeah, you can't. There's no way to really do it. It's just, I think it feels weird at the moment that they have the null binds banned and not the keyboard that does the same thing. I think that's probably the biggest weird thing to me, where I'm like, you guys already kind of decided that this way of playing the game was wrong, and now that it's in hardware, it's okay. But I think that clarification between these two things would probably go a long way to getting that straightened out in some way.
Obviously, if Valve say if Valve say no, then that's the one group of people who can essentially have that input. Whereas unless it's Valve, what do we do?
How does it work? Is there like can you like turn it on for specific keys? Is how it works, I'm assuming?
They put it on 2 keys. But I think with Wooting, you can bind it to more pairs of keys.
Okay.
So with SnapTap, I think you can only put it on A and D, or whatever you use as your movement commands, which is the Razer. With Wooting, I think there's more options. Wooting has a lot more options. Okay. But I haven't looked at it yet. Mine will arrive next week, so I can take a look at it then. But there's definitely more options with Wooting.
I have it upstairs as well. I haven't dove deep into the technology and gotten used to it the way I probably should have, even though I've had it for like 6 months. But I can check it out a little bit too through the wooting stuff.
Yeah, definitely fiddle with the rapid trigger stuff for the actuation points. So you want to have that, like, don't have it on keys where you would be changing grenades and everything like that, because you might accidentally do a slight push on that key. But you'd want it on your movement keys, for example. So yeah, just you can set it to certain keys of how you want to have the actuation points and stuff. So yeah,
cool.
It's pretty straightforward.
Well, that's the keyboard talk.
Should we start the episode now?
Yeah, I guess ready to begin.
Yeah.
How'd you like the format change for Cologne? No more best of ones. Everyone happy?
Yeah, Yanker probably the happiest.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can really complain about this except, well, probably us analysts who are going to get fucked on that day somehow by having to work a full day or something. But to be honest, I don't care really. If it means we're getting best of threes throughout the tournament, I think it has to be that way. I mean, for all tournaments, really.
Especially with MR12.
Like the tier 1 lands, right? Like even something as a first round of games in the play-in being best of 1, like no, everything has to be best of 3. Just figure it out. Like find a way, cram it all together. Like if it has to be a 4 best of 3 day, do it, you know? Like just do accelerated schedule for that one day. Everyone will deal with it. It's going to be a long day for people working it. Some teams might have to play a little bit earlier than they're used to. Some teams will have to play a little bit later than they're used to. But, you know, it's better than just playing MR12,
best of 1,
losing both pistols, something like that, right? And then thinking about how you didn't even get to play the game and it's already over. So awesome. I'm hoping that will just be the norm moving forward for all TOs and all tournaments that are this big.
We only have
I think it's still going to be hard to get past Valve.
In what way?
Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, I know. I know, but it's also, it's not just, it's best of 1 and Swiss. It's like a combination of shit with fucking
shit on top.
What. Yeah, exactly. It sounds amazing, right? So, and I don't know, I have no idea, you know, seeing as how I haven't been to majors in 10 years, what they're thinking or how they're thinking about formats, best of 1s. Why do they like them, or do they even care, right? Is it just up to the TO to put forward a format that makes more sense, or that doesn't involve best of 1s but has multiple opportunities? I'm not sure.
I think it's in the rule book that majors have to be the Swiss system, isn't it? I think it's in the actual major rule book that's the format they want.
Yeah, we went over this.
Yeah,
I remember there was something in there, but yeah, there was definitely something in there regarding the format. But I think that Yanko's still bang on in terms of the TO should probably be able to pitch formats to them every time that they're pitching a bit of a major, right? So, nice, yeah. But I think ESL doing this is not based on like necessarily alone the feedback of teams and players in the community, because teams, players, the community would have been giving the feedback about best of 1s being the same for years.
Yep.
It's now that they've probably accrued enough data since we went to MR12 to see that they're saving relatively enough time that it should seem viable to now do best of 3s and not have the day run to 2, 3 a.m. in the morning or something ridiculous, right? Yep. Obviously, we still run the risk with any tech issues or if literally every single map goes overtime or something crazy. But they've it appears with them making this decision that they would have had to have factored in how much time is being saved with the new format. And if that's 5 minutes per map, right, that could make a difference over an entire day. Maybe it's more than 5. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing figures out there, but that'd be interesting to see what their data looks like, because I know that the tournament management team keep track of all of those little features. But I think that especially of a caliber of an event of like a Cologne and a Katowice and a major, it's nice. The biggest gripe I have, because like there's one thing we can sit there and suck ESL off for doing that, which is great. But the thing that I want to be critical of still is the 16 playoff bracket. Yeah, I fucking hate it. I hate it. I think it's the one thing that has to change. And I think for the Friday, because I don't want them to expand. I don't want them to do a third day. I don't want them to do a third day. A fourth day of crowd because it's not going to work, right? Friday, it's pretty tough. You fill out Friday afternoon and evening. That's when people start coming in after work and school and everything. So why don't we just fucking have 4 best of 3s on the Friday, cut out halftime breaks, right? Cut out the walk-ins and all the pageantry around it so that we just get games started as quickly as possible. Maybe you save yourself 20 minutes between series and we just run at 10 a.m. until end of day, run 4 best of 3s on the Friday, and then step it up. Okay, Saturday, we're full, we're arena, big walk-in, everything. And then that'll also give a bit more, it'll also make the group stage format better. Because the group stage format now, like, you win, 2 best of 3s and you're locked in. And then you play a seeding game. Fuck seeding games.
I think that's fuck seeding games, but winning 2 best of 3s and being in the playoffs is fine.
Yeah, I think it's the seeding game I dislike more.
Yeah, and I think the problem is also, I was thinking about this the other day, because there's 2 ways you can do it, right? The only 2 ways you can do it without adding days is make Friday 4 games or make Friday and Saturday 3 games.
Nah, do Friday 4.
Right. Yeah, Friday 4.
Right,
I don't think
the problem is, outside of what you're saying, Chad, is that there's no way the first game is going to have, I don't know how many viewers can there be for like a 10 a.m. game. You know,
so
it doesn't matter that, or 11 a.m. whatever the time is. Yeah, but the problem is it sucks for those teams as well. Then that are playing that game, that are in that slot. You know, it's a shitty experience, and then the team that's in the same stage that plays the last game gets a full house. You know,
well, I
like
think,
that's.
I think too, you could probably, because I'm with you, I like the cutting out of the pageantry of that. I think halftime breaks might be hard to send away just because of sales, but I'm with you still if they wanted to do that.
No, but Jason, more hours of stream in the day. Boom.
True.
4 minutes watch, motherfucker.
Okay. Well, I think too, if we were to do that, I think the way you'd want to do the arena would be to close down the upper levels, right? Like make sure everyone who comes in with a Friday ticket is on the floor and like the lower deck, so that way you actually have half the crowd packed in as much as possible.
It would be more than half on Friday night. Yeah. Cologne would be more than half on a Friday night. Because the best solution, the most costly solution, is to run Thursday and Friday quarterfinals, 2 best of 3s, and then start at like 5 o'clock, and then have the second game start at like, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something like that, and run it in a smaller venue. But they will never do that because the sheer cost that you'd need to have 3 venues, group stage venue, quarterfinals venue for 2 days, and then playoff venue for the next 2, it's not possible, right? Yeah. Or at least it's not right now. Maybe in the future it could be.
And the logistics of having to move the setup from place to place would be a nightmare as well.
Yeah. Because I'm with you, Yanko. It sucks, but it's going to suck for somebody at a certain point. And I would prefer to have 8 teams in the playoffs as a trade-off that we can make now. And then maybe in the future we make another trade-off where we can finally have venues which scale up and have a bit more, flexibility. Because I think I agree with you, Yanko. It would suck for the first team to have no crowd or whatever. It'd be like Brazil for when outsiders were playing. But I think it's something that we want and we deserve, but we can't have because we don't have enough money.
To be honest, the more I'm thinking about this, like the more I'm on your side, because I feel like it's one of those things that we're just used to by now that people don't think about. Like this is to you what the Swiss system is to me, in a sense of like everyone's just accepted it for no good reason. We have just accepted this thing, and no one is trying to change it anymore. Right, whether it's a good or a bad thing or whatever, So yeah, I think for next year, starting from Katowice, I think they should just pull the trigger on it and do it the way you said. Just try it and see what happens. Try it for next year, and see how it goes. Right, what the teams will say, how will the viewership be, and see what makes it more worth it.
It feels like this is like the first step towards that being possible. Like if they've already accepted that a 4 best of 3 day can fit into the time, then I mean, even if it's on stage games and arena games, then it's just a matter of finding the workaround that Chad already even had some suggestions for. So, I mean, I think them saying we'll do this 4 BO3 day is a really good start, and hopefully, it goes smoothly, and then they get more confidence to actually try it and it come the playoffs and can adjust that last little piece of the format, which would be beautiful.
Because the seeding game, I agree, is also stupid. Like it's one of those games where you understand that there's a lot on the line, but it's difficult a little bit to play those games, and I can't blame the players. You can stand there as a coach and motivate people, and try to create an atmosphere in the team where people are going to fight. But it's just different when in the back of your head the player knows that no big deal if you lose this game, right? Like,
It's like
you're
fourth
still in the
match.
playoffs. Yeah, it's that sort of a thing. So screw it. Just next year, get rid of it. And you were also right, Jason. I looked it up. It does say in the rule book that it has to be the Swiss system. It just doesn't say that it has to be best of ones. that's the one thing.
You ready to go back to the old Starladder format? Swiss best of 3?
Bro, I'd go to whatever just so that we don't have best of ones. Like, I don't care if it's these are the two things we talked about this last year before we started getting these changes and things got better. Like, the no format can help for bad seeding. So at least now the seeding will be better, right? So that puts less emphasis on the format, but now it just has to be best of 3s, not best of 1s. Because whether it's Swiss best of 3 or GSL best of 3 or whatever it is, like, as long as it's best of 3 and the seeding is normal, like, at the end of the day, it's fine. For me, the problem with Swiss is I feel like it becomes too long. It's just unnecessary to run it. And that's why it can't be best of 3 Swiss, because it's too long. But you could do a best of 3, format like it is in Cologne, or just standard, whatever you want. 8-team GSL groups, like, you can do that. But I think that's the problem for me. And also, I think actually now you could do it maybe at the Austin Major. Like, you could do it best of 3 Swiss, because if we are right in our assumptions, there will be no RMRs even next year. It will just be stuff based off of
A ranking,
Val rankings, right? So the one thing that may happen potentially is just a qualifier for like all the regions. But I'm not too sure about that either. Like, that's also just pure speculation. So, meaning there's going to be more room in the calendar because there will be no RMRs. So you could add like 3 or 4 days to the major to make sure you could play out all those best of 3s in Swiss. And also for the TOs, like, they lose
having to run the RMR, the financial burden.
They lose that. Yeah, exactly. Well, the burden, or also the viewership for that, and just the content that they sell to sponsors and so on. So making the major a couple of days longer sort of compensates for that. So I think it would be a kind of win-win.
Let's at least get rid of the buckle system. Let's get the buckle system out of here. I don't like that shit.
I think your point with the seeding is pretty apt, Yanko. Right? Like, the thing with the Swiss is you're trying to correct for a lot of error, right? Because we're like sifting for gold, right? We're going through lots of different drop downs to make sure we have the right result. That's essentially what you're looking for with the Swiss system. If the schedule within the year gives us the teams that we should have and they're seeded relatively accurately, it's never going to be perfect, right? Like, I think that's something that we need to keep in mind. And also, we still don't have a date in these rules that Valve put out of when the cutoff date for this will be, right? So that's something that needs to be ironed out still, because that's going to have a lot of impact too. But yeah, I think that if the seeding is better, we're making some broad assumptions here, then you could go back to something more GSL related, or a format, that's like a bracket, and maybe you after your first game, you get shifted down to this group and these teams come up to this group, right? For this, so you don't get overlapping matches in like the decider games or whatever. There's plenty of formats that could work with that, but we don't need as many games, especially if they're all best of 3. So there's wiggle room there. But then we also have this whole skipping of stages shit. Like, do we still think that majors should have 24, right? Like, do we think that we should just have 32 teams? How many teams would you have in a major? I think 32. Fuck it.
Yeah, 32 is fine. I'm fine with 24s, I'm fine with that as well. I just don't want people to be skipping stages. I don't want people to be skipping a quarterfinals. I don't want people to be skipping ahead the first week or the first 3 days of play. It doesn't make any sense to me. Let's make the major actually a marathon of competitive factor to find the champion.
But does it make more sense with the model that we're looking at having, where, let's say, the top 8 teams are rewarded for being the best 8 teams of the season? Does that make sense? Like, I'm just playing devil's avocado here.
Aren't they rewarded by having the higher seeds? Like, isn't that enough of a reward to potentially give them easier matchups the way through? Like, that's the entire concept of it. Like, that's enough of a reward in my mind to where it's like, congratulations.
Yeah, but
busted your ass. You
avocado
did well.
is rotten.
Yeah.
But let's just be realistic here. 32 teams.
They give them all sick of money.
200 and more people at the same time.
I'll
Like,
make a
just the
comeback. Give them all
logistics of it.
sticker money.
And the cost of it, I think I don't think that's realistic. I mean, it would be fun, right, for viewers, for everyone involved, right, because it is the biggest event in the calendar, and just make it even bigger in
It's
that
still
sense.
32 teams. It's just not 32 teams at once. Is it?
No,
No, wait,
it's
it's 16
24
and
teams
8.
now.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had a beer and a half, boys. It's fucking
It's
over,
over.
man.
Yeah,
it's
it's
fucking over. Ask me some questions.
I think the way it is now is fine to me. Like that, the top 8 ranked teams skip the first stage. Like that, they're rewarded for the work they've done through the season. Other teams have to still fight it out, right, to come and meet them. And after that, it's 16 teams in the fight for the trophy. I think that's okay. I hated the fact before that a team would just show up at the RMR and if they win 3-0, 2 best of ones and 1 best of 3, all of a sudden they're top 8 teams in the world. Like that's where they're placed. like it happened with Sprout
Yeah.
for the Rio Major. That's bullshit. So I think teams should be rewarded for their work throughout the season, and that's fine. The problem is going to be I think this season is insanely important. Like
This season
because
now?
This second half of
yes,
this year.
season, yes, the second half of this year, because if you're looking at tier 1, whoever breaks into the top 8, right? So for the invites for the events that are coming next year, like that's going to mean so much, because everyone else will have to play these like close qualifiers to make the event, which I have no doubt will be online. Like just imagine you guys like listening to this. Just imagine it's basically the same format for these tournaments, kind of like Cologne and Kato, right? But just imagine the play-in is being played online. Like that's what you'll get for I'm assuming, again, I don't know this, but for tournaments like Rio, like Dallas, for Blast, we know that this bounty thing is all online until the last 8 teams. I imagine PGL with their formats is not going to bring 24 teams on LAN or something like that. It's just a way of also lowering the costs for these TOs, and with the fact that they can't invite more than 8 teams realistically to a 16-team tournament, right? The qualifiers need to have a large amount of teams. You're not going to spend that much money to make it LAN, right? You're just going to hold it online. And we all know how cutthroat online CS can be, right? Even for tier 1 teams. And the schedule is going to be, well, I even heard this from one of the managers I talked to recently, and I don't think there's any way that this is true, because that would be crazy. And I was looking through the rule book again, and I didn't find this. They mentioned that, like, if you're at an ESL event, you can't play a qualifier for a PGL event.
I don't think that's going to be
Why?
like I've heard that too. I've heard that as well. I don't think it's going to be possible in practice. Yeah.
How the fuck what?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because
What?
I don't know that you can just like play at one tournament at a time in a way,
But like, is that like a Valve rule or like the TO rule?
I think they phrased it as if it was a Valve rule, but I think that might have been like in the rule books for these partner teams or partner leagues or whatever.
Well, that's
but that would be
different.
dead language. That would be dead language by the time next year starts. So I don't think that can happen in any way in practice, because there's no way that's what you will have. You will have qualifiers overlapping with, final stages of a tournament. 100%. Like there's so many tournaments, it's impossible for it to happen otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, just the schedule next year is Blast tournament ends January 26th, ESL tournament begins January 29th, ends February 9th, PGL begins February 10th, ends the 23rd, and then an ESL tournament begins February 25th, ends March 16th, and then a Blast tournament starts on the 17th, and it's that way all the way to the first major. So there's no way that teams are going to be able to play in those open qualifiers being not at events, because there's just so many. The calendar is just lined up perfectly back to back, event to event. You're going to have to play some form of online qualifier when you're at an event. So I mean, if that rule, again, I don't actually know on it. It's just a rumor I've heard. I don't actually know if it's sticking around, but that's going to be a really hard rule for teams to follow when they're at events.
I don't know.
Feels like
I
it would
think,
tear apart the entire fabric of the system before it even really gets off the ground.
Because and this is another thing that is worrisome for me. So there's no talk about there having to be open qualifiers for tier 1 events.
Yeah,
right?
I was banging on about this the other day. Yeah.
You know, like it can all be closed. So
Yeah.
it doesn't it's not an open circuit. Yes, you have to invite people based off of their ranking, but how do people get points if everything is closed? Like how does someone
You tier tier 2 events, but the rank mobility is the issue, Yanko. Like, well, it's not the issue. There will still be rank mobility. There will still be ways to get in, and there will still, and also Valve, I think, are being a little bit naive because they're under the impression that TOs will, some of them will still run open qualifiers. But I think the way to get into these events will now be longer. You won't have a Copenhagen Flames story. It'll just be, there will still be the ability. It will just be harder to break through, which means you have to be giga legit. You can't be a fluke, which is kind of what we want, but also takes away the excitement of an underdog story. Because you're right. Like, I feel it's going to be quite closed.
It's kind of what you want, but you want those, you want those flash in the pan teams to make it to like one event here and there, right? Like you want that excitement of a new team just being like, hey, we're hitting a hot streak for like these 3 months.
We do and we don't. You know, we do and we don't.
Yeah,
it's fine. Like, I think I'd like for there to be, because a team still has to earn it. Just because there's an open qualifier happening doesn't mean that, like, you know, a team will make it through the closed as well, right? But it's cool sometimes when it happens, when you see a team come in and upset, right, and put themselves on the map. We've had a plethora of these stories: Bad News Eagles, Copenhagen Flames, right, Saw to some extent, and it's cool. And sure, these teams might not live up to anything like in the long run and really break through into the scene, but at least a couple of players will show up. I mean, just look at that Flames lineup and all the different players that went to different tier 1 teams. So I think it's exciting in that way. And I don't know, it felt like for Valve wanting to make the scene more open, they kind of did the opposite, because the partnerships were mainly there. I mean, it was locking up tier 1 teams. It wasn't preventing opportunities for, you know, teams down the line. And this way, it's still going to be the best 8 teams in the world, which sure, now it's like based off of their ranking, which is objective, right? But I don't think, I'm curious to see how many of these TOs, if any, will hold open qualifiers in addition to their closed qualifiers now having to be larger, right?
I wanted to latch on to something there, Jason. So do you have something?
No, go on.
I wanted to latch on to what Yanko was saying with the, oh fuck, I've forgotten.
I can go while you think.
You go, Jason. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think part of the thing that this restructuring, like you kind of mentioned, they might have gone the opposite direction and making it less open. I think one of the problems they tried to solve was the partner leagues locked up the top teams for TOs, right? Not necessarily access from lower tier teams. It was, we saw tournament organizers dropping out and stopping to run events. So if you're Valve, you're going to your star ladders and being like, why aren't you guys running events anymore? Is there something that's happened that is telling you that this is a bad decision to like run an event? And all these different TOs came back and said, we can't get any of like the top, 12 teams because they're all locked up with ESL. They're all locked up with Blast. They have their calendar set and they can't break out of it. So I think more than anything, this is probably the way it's structured at the moment, is to solve the problem of the top teams being locked up in those partnership deals. And we have yet to see how they're going to continue to strive to keep the scene as open as they would like it, Also,
I think I remembered my point, and it latches onto this, Jason, because if we think about that problem that you've just highlighted, right? The orgs as well, not just the TOs, are in the conversation for this, because it was something for them that they also wanted to participate in, right? Because of revenue shares or ways for them to help monetize, or knowing the quality of the events that their teams would be attending. So in a way, it benefited not only the TO, it also benefited the teams. We know that they made like big money. Like, especially I saw one of the guys who's involved in Blast, not a Blast employee, but from one of the teams, sent me like the structure of like how much money you get for like Blast groups and placements and shit. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
But the thing here is, this is kind of like, well, we'll keep it so that the best teams can be asked, right, if they would like to go to the top events because of the way that we'll structure tier 1 events in Valve's rulebook with this new system. So it keeps it kind of closed, but not fully closed. So the events will always have the opportunity to have the best teams if they meet the criteria that the teams want. So we'll still have the best or a lot of the best teams at the big events because of the way it's structured. But then we'll also have, but it's merit based. No more fucking EG dog shit bullshit, fucking namesake, terrible Counter-Strike, wasting everybody's time. No more of that.
Yeah.
If you're fucking dogs bollocks like Fnatic and OG and all of these cunts, then get the fuck out, right? But if you're good and you're like a Vitality or a FaZe or whatever, then yeah, you should be here. You should be at the best events. Like, it makes sense. You guys are doing the right thing. You're staying competitive. You're spending your money right.
Right.
And we kind of, I think Valve are trying to satiate the needs of everybody here. The viewer wants to see the best teams. But the best teams are only teams who give results, not teams who signed a fucking contract because they're all mean something. Like, and maybe we're on the way to that, but we're going to have we want the best thing now. That's like every human being and everything. You want the best now, but it's going to take us time to get there. We're on the right path.
They have removed the ability to coast for the partner teams for sure, which is really nice. I like that.
And I think also the problem with that is
that's my life.
If you look at like the problem was more Blast than ESL because Blast circuit was really closed outside of the showdown.
Here's that fucking ESO shill again.
Of course, man, you know me. I love that.
Shill.
I love that
again.
ESL.
Strap those ESL
That's all
boots
that's
up.
left, Chad. You know, gonna get there with both hands. But yeah, because on every ESL tournament you could still qualify. None of them was just purely invite only, all of the slots. So they would lock up some of the top teams and then there was still an opportunity to qualify. But yeah, I mean, now that's changed. Now that's behind us anyway. And I'm just afraid that there'll be more online CS, which for me always is a bad thing. And it's going to be interesting to see how teams approach it. Like, do they accept every tournament? Do they play everything? Because some of these tier 2, tier 3, whatever teams that I've talked to, they feel like, you have to play everything.
Yeah.
Because you have to get the points wherever you can. It's just a grind and it's going to be unhealthy for the players, right?
I think
and
if
it's
you're
going to
top
be
12
tough.
to 16, Yanko, you're probably immune. I think outside of that, it's pretty tough, though. I agree with you. But if you're maybe top 12 or 16 is a bit generous, maybe just top 10, right?
That's which is not a lot at all.
No, it's not.
It's weird though too. Like I know there's some events. I know like one of the things that I heard going on in the NA scene is if you're one of like the teams like not Liquid or Complexity, but kind of one of the I guess Liquid might be in that category now with all their roster changes, but there's actually events in NA where like you want to play because you want that experience and you want the points, but it's almost like the same ELO face it problem that Rush and you were talking about earlier, where it's a team that plays in the event, if they don't win it, they like lose 30 points. But if they do win it, they only gain 5 points. So for them, it's like, we want to play this, we want to compete, and we need to practice. But why are we risking all these points? Like, it doesn't make any sense in terms of standings. And that's a problem I think that's going to have to get tweaked and fixed at some point eventually, right? You'd think in theory.
How do you fix it?
I don't know. I don't know all the things they have built into that kind of ELO, the ESL rankings and points and all that jazz. So, although that stuff's going away.
I think we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah.
In practice, really, nothing's going to be changed before it starts happening, right? Like, and then they might see something and change it up like next year. But talking about like rankings and shit, NaVi being ranked number 1.
Wait. Hold up, Yanko. Hold up. I don't want to get too far ahead here because we need the trap. Look, I definitely want to talk about NaVi. Don't get me wrong, mate. Don't get me fucking wrong. But we're going to talk about one important thing here, Yanko, because you and I have been, mainly me, publicly accused of shutting down North American Counter-Strike conversation.
Oh, here we go.
Now, the title of the Reddit thread, Oddcaster/commentator bias against American CS.
Oh, boy.
Now, I know America likes to believe that the rest of the entire universe revolves around them exclusively. And this thread goes on to tell you that exactly because their Counter-Strike is dog shit. But they still feel the need that they want to talk. So, Jason, you're going to have your moment in the sun right now.
Oh.
Now, as I read through this, you will be, I think, guys, everybody who's watching, we're going to probably do about an hour to an hour and a half on North American Counter-Strike. Now, Jason's going to lead this, and Yanko and I will chime in when necessary. As a North American
allowed,
CS
budget.
fan,
Why are you
I
punishing
actually
me?
kind of appreciate being the butt of the joke again amongst the community. NACS moment, NA comms, etc. There is some truth in these stereotypes, and at least they are in good fun. And the truth is, NACS is weak right now, and CS, like all sports, is competitive, and you can't easily get your feelings hurt because being nice to everyone isn't the point. No problem there. But I recently watched a Talking Counter podcast, and Moses is literally having to get on his knees, literally. I know they've changed the definition in the dictionary for you fucking Muppets who don't actually know how to use the term literally correctly, but Jason was literally not getting on his knees. But anyway, is literally having to get on his knees and beg for Sponge and Yanko to talk about Complexity, which, hello, is a top 10 team, whether the Euro guys like it or not. I'm Australian, dickhead. Anyway, the two of them are happy to talk about Furia, 9Z, the Mongols, Falcons, Betboom, and many other teams ranked below Complexity. But Moses has to sheepishly say, maybe you guys don't want to talk about it, and if so, that's fine, but Complexity, which is just so freaking weird. Moses, why are you having to plead for your co-host to discuss a subject many viewers want to hear just because it relates to a North America and America? Jason? That's a question.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. They are in some level kind of. I just wanted a quick statement. They are just kind of boring to wax lyrical on, for a long period of time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hold up a second.
I know.
Are you sure? Are you on the record with that?
I'm on the record with that. Yeah, it's a conversation we've had a number of times. I thought maybe it was just time for an update, after a poor performance at the event that we were at, and just rehash it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then move on nicely. I didn't feel like I was begging. I just wanted to see what your interest level was of rehashing the Complexity conversation, which is
I wanted to talk about all things
ceiling.
North American CS.
Okay.
Jason, who's the next North American talent we should be focusing on? What do you think, mate? Like, what should we be focusing on with North American Counter-Strike?
Well, I guess
should we be talking about Wildcard?
I guess
carried by
at the
Swedes?
moment it would be Lake would be the kind of one to go at, who just joined M80. Yeah. He's kind of the next FPL star, the replacement for Mulbs. That'd be an individual player to keep your eyes on, although that team obviously is not constituted solely of North Americans. I think the answer to your question is probably there's not really a whole lot of teams worth discussing at this point because they can't really break out and show anything crazy within the North American region. So until anyone does that, no reason about talking to them in an international context.
Look, I really like North American CS. I lived there for a little while. I'm one of the biggest North American Counter-Strike supporters. So if we could, Yanko, do you have anything that you want to contribute to North American Counter-Strike? I really think we should lean into this we should only talk about G2 and North American Counter-Strike, I think.
I think what I don't understand in that thread is when he's saying Moses, Tana, etc. don't shit on European or Russian teams for seemingly no reason. Does he think you're European and I'm Russian? And that's why he mentions specifically those teams. Like, I don't know. I think, yeah, go ahead.
I like it as well. There's a comment in there that goes on to, it says, where is it? It mentions something about me, and it's like that I'm always talking about, where is it? I did notice that during the episode. I also felt like there is a good talking point around Cole with who they should replace to raise their ceiling, which they did talk about. It's also a little funny coming from Sponge, who has a crazy bias for a region like Oz, which is comparable to NA. Still love the show, but I did pick up on that. Does he mean a negative bias?
I don't know, but I don't think they listen. I don't think they listen to you enough. If that's the take on your Australian Counter-Strike feelings, I think I've heard you a number of times say Australian Counter-Strike is dog shit.
Yeah, I have.
That's mostly your sentiment, Chad.
Yeah.
Even now that you're like consulting for a team and they have all those players, you're still like, yeah, we're just shit. Yeah. I made this pile of crap for all of you.
Yeah. Can we talk to the people in the chat?
Yeah. I was about to bring a couple of things up. Someone a while ago asked me what was going on with the Talking Counter 10-mans in the Faceit hub. It's all set up. It's all ready to go. I just actually haven't sat down and put any kind of announcement in the Discord. Have the guy who's going to kind of head it up and kind of run it as the admin. And
But you're making people do work.
They ask. I say sure. You know, that's kind of how
Jason,
this
what are you gonna do when
works.
they come and they ask for money, mate?
I don't know. I'm gonna turn to our financial guy, and that'd be Yanko. So he's probably gonna have
That'd
to find
be
some
you.
coins somewhere.
Oh, nice. Of course.
But
Great.
yeah, at some point I just have to announce that it's live and it's set up and public the thing, and then we'll do that. I'm probably going to do that this week, to be honest, before leaving for Cologne. Someone asked who our favorites for Cologne, and I think I want to push that back until after Blast and see how everyone's doing at Blast leading into the event. And then
I want to see Liquid fucking bop everyone.
Someone brought up NaVi, Yanko. This ties into you wanted to make that transition to the number one team in the world. Does NaVi have the best T side in the world at the moment? Was the question.
Ooh. Yanko, be careful. If you say anything negative about NaVi, you will come across as a hater.
All right, boys, cue the Reddit threads.
Luckily for me, Chad, I don't really give a fuck about that as much,
I've
actually at all. So I don't really care.
I worked it out, Yanko. In NaVi, the first two letters are NA, so that's what triggers me when I just see it.
Well, at least it lets us talk about him here at the All American podcast.
That's true.
Yeah,
we do love North
That's
America.
Actually pretty good. No, I think it was around this time last year when they made the change, or a couple of months back when they went excuse me, international. And I was saying, like, after we saw them like the first tournament, I'm like, this team is going to make changes like 3 months from now, like 4 months from now. There's no way this team is going to really work. Granted, that was still a bit simple on the lineup, and it didn't work. And then they brought in Wonderful, but it still wasn't looking very promising at all. It was very inconsistent. Then they go and win the major, which obviously I just disliked the way the vetoes went in the semifinal and the final against them. I had nothing against their, like, the way they played. I think especially in the final, they played extremely well. They were really in the face of FaZe, right? Bit stepped up and they earned that win. There's nothing, I never said at any point that their win is not deserved or anything along those lines. And then we saw them, flop a little bit. Pro League wasn't a problem as much as, Dallas was, and losing to Heroic in the lower bracket and so on. And now you're thinking, okay, was that just a flash in the pan? What's going on? They have a good spring finals, but they really get bounced around by Spirit, which has happened every time they played Spirit, really. But now before EWC, they got to do a boot camp, which they haven't been able to do as much. It didn't sound like as they wanted, or I don't know. But basically with NaVi, if you hear from them, if you listen to their interviews, it's like, oh, we had a boot camp, we're really prepared, and they have more confidence then, and they actually just play straight up better. And they were the most impressive team at EWC without a doubt. They played the best team Counter-Strike. I don't want to go out and say they have the best T side in the world, because it's very strong. It would definitely be up there in the conversation for it. They would definitely be a contender. It's just the start of the season as well for a lot of these teams that probably looked a little bit worse than they will a couple of tournaments probably at Cologne. But yeah, and the thing that shows it is the fact that there's nothing, things don't happen randomly when they play, especially the T side, right? Like, you can see the thought process and you can see how much attention there is to detail, like to every single piece of utility that they throw to take map control, to force the CTs off of their angles, right? And how drilled they are with taking map control and then just making it incredibly uncomfortable for the CTs. Once they have that control, it's very difficult to get a read on what they want to do, and it's difficult to punish them, because obviously what you see a lot nowadays in the meta is, the Ts get some map control, the CTs reaggress, like they become the aggressor on the CT side, and NaVi is just really good at punishing those plays, or being one step ahead of them, or just reacting very well to what's going on the map. So I think that was like the most impressive part for me, alongside just the mental fortitude, right? Like, just bouncing back from that 13-1 against Mouse, and then it was the opposite thing against G2. It was an overtime map that they lost, the first map of the grand final, and both times they just bounced back with a vengeance and take care of business.
Yeah, I think it's a tough conversation to have about labeling anybody as the best at anything right now. But going into EWC, Spirit were the number one ranked team in the world. We had a conversation on this podcast. We said, yeah, they're the favorites, the number one ranked team in the world. Well, going into Cologne, NaVi are likely going to be the number one team in the world, right? So they will go into Cologne as the favorite for that event. I think that the conversation is quite open, and I think people even in the Discord chat are having it right now, right? About, which this team can beat this team, but they can't beat this team. If, Mouse meets FaZe, they're going to struggle. But if they meet these, like Spirit, they can beat Spirit, right? That conversation, I think, exists. And it's probably like a little diagram worth drawing up to see how it flows, because that is going to be a lot of key determining factors going into these events. There is nobody who's unequivocally better than everybody else right now, right? Like there is teams who are playing better elements or have players who are doing better elements in the game. But overall, there is no dominant team. We're not in an Astralis era. We're in a moment of Counter-Strike until one of these teams strings a bunch of victories together that don't even have to be dominant, really, just have to be victories against a large plethora of names, and then the conversation, well, this is the best team right now, right? But if you just keep going in and drawing the same names in the playoff brackets and you keep dodging teams that you struggle against in group stages or whatever, then that conversation will live on. But at the moment, it's an open field with a bunch of teams. But NaVi are the best team in the world right now, right? Because they won EWC, the first event out. And this is where the context is going to matter. And I much prefer this conversation than us jerking ourselves off about, who we think the best team in the world is and who's going to go because no one is dominant right now. That would just be ludicrous for somebody trying to label that. And then you can get into the nuance of the conversation. What are the positives? What are the negatives of this team? Why do they struggle against this specific play style? What adjustments do they have to do? I made a tweet during EWC about the Alexi wins against the G2 core. And I think that's impressive. The fact that he's now 7-0 against Monacy Hunter and Nico, which is the engine of G2. That in itself is impressive. I know there's different in-game leaders. I know there's different approaches to the game. And people are saying, well, there's no but it is a narrative. I understand that Alexi's getting the better of them time and time again. That's the fucking narrative, right? And how many records like that exist in Counter-Strike, right? So I think that I look, for me, for NaVi, when I look at them, I think they play very good team CS. I think their extremity players play very well. Jail and Bit can have a lot of impact in rounds. I think Wonderful had some really hot moments. If he can put that in a bottle and do that, more and more. Blade's timeouts, right? Every time it felt like he took a timeout, they made an adjustment in the next round and then they fucking converted. So there's a lot of good things about NaVi. Sorry, Jason.
I was going to say, just to build on that too, it's like, I think if we go into EWC, because I'm with you, the top is not any kind of hierarchy of who's the best team. So I think if you went in going into EWC, it was probably FaZe, Vitality, Spirit, Mouse as kind of your top teams that you expected. We probably wouldn't have put NaVi in that same category at that time, considering what their results were. And then coming out of it, it feels like they've jumped up there. And I think part of that reason is, you have all your strats and your elements, and some are playing better than others at various times. But you go into EWC, if NaVi want to stay in this kind of group of teams that can challenge for trophies, they need Bit to consistently be at this level, which allows EMA to actually find an easier time having impact in the game. Bit emerging as the MVP at EWC and kind of being just an incredible player the whole way through for NaVi gives them that third kind of force to open things up on the map, which is probably why their T-sides and some of their games looked so strong and so good, is they had an extra fragger making things so much easier on everyone else. Wonderful played really, individually, I think NaVi had a really, really good tournament. And I would even extend that. One player that I've been probably most impressed with on NaVi on an individual level is actually Alexi. I think when I watch,
he had a rough tournament until the final, didn't he?
But I think there's
he had
something,
a good game against FaZe.
There's something really cool that I enjoy watching about him, because he plays some hard, he plays outside on Nuke. Which is where typically there's a star player. But this is the thing. He plays it in a way that his strength is obviously not sheer mechanical skill like a Nico, like a Rain in the way they play it. But I've watched Alexi shut down Donk on outside Nuke in games before, in maps. The fact that Alexi's able to play these tough positions and work out his own way to actually do it, whether it's a shit ton of prep and knowing what all the moves are going to be and trying to read which one's coming, he's able to actually perform very well on an individual level in tough positions.
I think
Yeah,
also
look,
I think that's actually one of the problems for Navi. That's
Okay.
why some players lack a little bit continuity. Is Alexi plays Yard on CT and then on T it's Ime who plays it. Like I
Right.
think it should just be the sort of same player doing it.
On both
Whether
sides
that
of the
has
map.
to be then Alexi, yes, or it has to be Ime. I think that's better, and I think it could help them even more. Like their CT sides are their weaker sides at the moment, and having a guy like Ima take over those roles and being able to perform in them, obviously, I think would be a boost to them.
I'm not
Definitely.
saying I disagree with that take. I'm just saying that there are teams who's clearly prescribed by having their in-game leader on these positions where there's a lot of info, like Vitality, for example. But I'm not hot on Vitality at all. I think Vitality are a bit of a. I wouldn't say they're a sinking ship, but they're taking on water and they're running out of fingers to plug holes.
It feels like
So
Cologne is
I
going to
think-
be a really big
Yeah.
tournament for them, and what comes after. It feels like Cologne's
Yeah.
going to be a crossroads for that roster, for that lineup.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to look at that team and they're going to levy the criticism. Probably a lot of people will go straight towards Apex because he's very animated in how he reacts. Other people would probably take like an easy target of a Mezzi because he's the newest addition. I think there's necessary adjustments in a lot of areas within that team, but I don't think Apex is the one that I would probably be. Look, I
I think
I don't love. Yeah.
I just think it's an interesting conversation with Apex in those positions, because I remember when he slid into them, like the logic made sense, and it was actually really exciting seeing it pan out in the server. But it feels like now looking back, like that whole concept of needing someone vocal and someone who is, going to take control of the situation and actually do something was the idea of why they wanted to put Apex in certain positions.
It's definitely vocal.
In hindsight, it feels like that is more of like a duct tape fix than a permanent fix, right? Like that might have worked a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be creating any lasting positive impact.
I think the issue is Ozra on the map, though. Like, I think that he has 4 players who are probably not the most assertive or the most vocal. And that's
Sure.
why, like, we've spoken about this plenty of times
Yeah.
about the trust within the team and doing the all-ins. And it felt like they were doing less of that during EWC to an extent. But then things just, like, the landslide after the 22-20 victory on Mirage versus VP, and then the next 2 maps just fucking, like, weren't even competitive, other than maybe one half out of the next 4.
Yeah, the first half of Inferno.
Yeah, and then it kind of all just fell apart. Like, I think that, like, one suggestion I gave the other day on HLTV Confirmed was swap Spinks and Mezzi, because I think the reason they brought in Mezzi was obviously to fill the void of Magisk, who is a dime a dozen. Does that mean not a lot? Is a dime a dozen?
That means.
That means.
I think that
Quite
means
frequently.
the opposite of what you're looking for.
Okay, he's a diamond in the rough.
rough,
No,
there you
there's no
go.
rough.
Yeah.
He's 1 in a million.
Yes.
Magisk is 1 in a million. That's what I
There
want.
you go.
In terms of being able to contribute in the capacity he did from the positions he played. I think plugging Mezzi into those positions and expecting him to be able to contribute in a similar fashion is very rare. And knowing that Mezzi was an in-game leader and Fnatic and thinking he would be able to bring that type of control across is one thing, but maybe putting in positions where he can actually do that a little bit more or play more of an active lurk would be another. So I would like to see 2 things potentially. One, I don't think is possible because of the way that Apex likes to conduct his game, and that would be Flamesy being put in some of Apex's positions to take some of these fights, right? The other, which I think is probably more possible, is to have Mezzi and Spinks swap positions. Because I think Spinks's lurks are either too readable by the opponents, or he's not active enough, or something. I would like, and just give Mezzi a crack at it. It's only potentially a band-aid fix. It might not work, but right now
maybe
there's
it
some
does.
problems in their games.
Yeah,
Maybe it does.
Maybe it opens up an
Maybe it
avenue
does.
towards the solution. Here's
Yeah, maybe they put Flamesy in more active positions and Spinks in
100%.
more passive positions. Like that's
Yeah.
what you do. Like just put Spinks into some of the anchor roles and give it to Flamesy, and then potentially on T side lurks give it to Mezzi, right? And that's what you do. You give the Spinks CT side roles to Flamesy. You swap Spinks with Mezzi. Okay. You swap Spinks with Flamesy on CT side, Spinks and Mezzi on T side. Like that's what you do. And maybe then you get more assertiveness, more proactivity by some of these players, and just also because Spinks isn't really delivering in the role, you just find a way to get more out of the role in that sense. But yeah, I think it's really exciting. Like Cologne is going to be awesome because it's really open right now who could win the tournaments. There's a lot of teams that are going to be fun to watch. If NaVi can keep up their level of play, right spirit, they need to show that they can, it was just the first event of the season for them. I don't know how Vitality will look like, or FaZe. I mean, the two teams
Days
that
are worrying, aren't they?
were struggling towards the end of the season. I mean, to some extent, I guess it's more of the eye test than the results, and then didn't start the season well. That always sucks. Of course, it's just the first tournament of the season, but for things to start off on the wrong foot, and like you said, Chad, just the manner in which they lost their games, like completely falling apart. Really, in a sense, it's just sucks. In that sense. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see all these teams. G2 as well. Just
How'd you like
first
G2?
tournament, made the final with. I mean, I liked it because in the end, what they ended up doing was similar, like we talked about Vitality. So Malbs took Hunter's roles on T side and Nexa's roles on CT side. Hunter kept his CT side roles and took Nexa's T side roles, right? So in the end, in a weird way, what happened for G2, for example, was because Hunter was also inconsistent, struggling a little bit, right? Like with how well Malbs is playing, so they got basically more out of Hunter's old role on T side. They got more out of Nexa's roles because it just was really that poor of a performance that it couldn't get any lower than that.
Yeah.
And then for Snacks, in the Hooksey's roles, really, I think he did fine. I think he did a bit better, than Hooksey did on a good day. Had some impactful moments. I think the calling was also fine. Sure, even he said in some of the games he wanted a little bit, some rounds back, maybe a little bit, playing it a little bit too safe on T side, the nuke after losing pistol against NaVi, right? But you could also tell with G2 that they just didn't have enough time. Like they just don't
Not
have
enough depth.
all the protocols in place, right? All the depth. When NaVi pushed them in lobby, they were so slow to react, right? And to get adjusted. And it looks bad when you watch it, but you understand that that's just how it has to be right now at this moment. And you're hoping that with this extra time, with the blast and the time in between, that for Cologne they can get a little bit more done. But I don't think there's any doubt that for G2 it is going to be the recipe, just that the players are going to be delivering, and then that there's a structure there that is going to allow them to flourish, right, and showcase what they're capable of. And this was an event where Nico was playing really, really well. Obviously, Malbs, I think, had a great first showing, right? Yeah. And m0NESY was under his sort of standard performance that we were used to. Even in that final, it was just weird with some of the,
but with the jump
decisions,
right?
Yeah, it was a really off tournament, but the final especially was an off game. Those pistol rounds on Nuke, just kind of throwing it away on the T side, that could have made things a lot different. With these things that we've been talking about, right? Like it was 6-6 the first half, so it's 7-6. If we're able to convert at least it's 8-6. If they eco, maybe 9-6 if they force, right? And then it's different. It's easier for Snacks to make some calls. There's a little bit less pressure, but they lose the opposite half. They force, they lose that eco first gun round. They get pushed. All this stuff happens, and they just never really get started on the T side. But that's understandable. And I think when we were talking before the tournament, the big question mark was, okay, how will Malbs do as an anchor? And I think he's just a fucking really good player, man. Like, so
with
obviously
time,
he needs
I think
to.
he can become a good anchor, but he had a few peaks as well.
Because he
wants to fight.
He wants to fight. He's that sort of a player, and he'll learn when not to do that when he's already built up enough of an advantage. But just being such a strong player, you're getting more than you did before.
Yeah,
just
no
based
doubt.
off of that. And I think it was visible even more so on T side, right? For example, Ancient in
He
some of
had
those
impact, yeah.
mid plays.
Yeah.
And also seeing this last thing, also seeing that they are willing to play Mirage. I mean, they picked it against Spirit, right?
But
So
that's where I was going. I
team-
wanted to ask you about this, Yanka, because you mentioned
Yeah.
during EWC about their Inferno not looking as good, and I've been thinking about this. Do you think that we'll see like a drastic shift in what their map pool looks like? I feel like if they're going to ban Vertigo, great, fuck yeah, sign me up for that. But they obviously have to be decent. They have to be serviceable at Nuke and Inferno. But I think if their map pool is orange maps, if they're good at Dust 2, Mirage, and Anubis, like they could, why not? Like why not? Like not fuck Inferno and fuck Nuke. You got to keep it on the back burner. But like and Ancient, they like Ancient, like maps that are fucking real fight driven, like chaotic openers. Like I think if they brought back like Pug map pool focus and fucked off the Inferno and like Nuke, second phase banned one of the two of those or whatever, I'm fucking down. Like sign me up. I think they should lean into it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's a little bit unfortunate with Inferno because they were arguably the
So
best
good
team
at
in the
it,
world
yeah.
on the map. But you know, when you change two players and you have Snacks who hasn't really played it, either played it or
Legion, yeah.
called on it, and you could tell that their banana control was off on T side and CT side, and that was why they were the best team before because that was their strength. So you don't want to give it away completely. Obviously, you're going to be working on that, and it's a question whether you can get to a good level on the map or not. But yeah, absolutely, Mirage, Dust 2, they haven't played Anubis with this
No,
roster
they got
yet,
away with it,
but
yeah.
they were good on Anubis before, right? Like so, I think they have a good understanding of how to play more or less all the maps that are in the pool. I mean, Snacks even likes Vertigo. Malves has played Vertigo. Like if they want to keep it around, if they play Navi and Navi lets it through, you know, let's say in the first phase, the next time they meet, so that they can
Maybe pick it, yeah.
punish
Who
pick
played
it, right?
Vertigo
Like
at EWC? Do you guys remember?
M80 versus
M80
Vitality.
against Vitality, and one more game, MIBR Spirit,
Yeah.
Okay.
and Spirit thrashed them as well.
Underdog
So yeah,
teams.
I think the map pool can look really, really good for G2, and that's also the benefit of having guys like Nico, Monacy on your team, right? That as long as you play these maps where they can have a chance, right? I mean, you saw that we had the Monacy Scout round on Nuke CT side from Heaven, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do that on Dust 2 easily as well, Mirage potentially, right? So just play these maps that give options to their players and give them space, focus on that, and just, you know, build a game that suits them, because now their firepower is looking really good. I mean, Malbs is just really fun to watch. And this was also his first tournament, like with G2,
Big boy, yeah.
first big final, really, as well. Some of these stage games, you know, it seemed like he handled it really well. So I will say one thing. We saw again, like in the final, like you could tell up until the final, they were super chill. You know, they understood that the expectations aren't really high. It's their first tournament. They're just trying to, you know, play and mesh, and you know, and they were, to be honest, just playing from ahead for the most time. You know, they were leading in game, so there was no reason for really much frustration or anything. But then you get to the grand final and some of that stuff starts happening, then you see the visible frustration on different players. You see in some of the play, whether from players individually or as a team in some situation, you know, the communication breaking down and the rounds falling apart. Like that's something that they just need to nip in the bud, right? Like coming into the following tournaments, you know, you can't have that happen as soon as things get close, or as soon as it's a high pressure environment. Or I think also a little bit for them is, like you said, a little bit is just playing Navi, because Navi has beaten them so many times in a row, right? So
It's more
you're
mental for
maybe,
them than it is for Alexi, I'd say, right?
Sure.
yeah, absolutely. It starts to get in your head, and then maybe you're giving them like too much respect. In some scenarios, you're like overthinking some scenarios and so on. So that's the one thing that they need to you need to accept the way that you're playing. You know, you agree on that, you understand it, and then if mistakes will happen, shit will happen. You just need to sort of keep it a little bit more chill in those moments, and just trust your team, right? Trust your teammates, believe in yourself as well, that you will get this done.
That's always the hard part.
Yeah, Jason, I want to bring you into the conversation.
Sure.
Obviously, they would have done better if Stewie was playing. So where's
Naturally.
Stewie going to go in North America?
I don't actually know.
I'm sorry, Jason, that I'm taking this out on you. It just,
It's fine.
I think I'm pretty reasonable. I don't, like,
it's because you know my true feelings as well. We're on the same page with these things. We all understand. I don't know where he's gonna go. I've said a number of times. I think complexity is probably a good ending point for him. Whether there'd be some weird shuffling that have to go on there.
I'd love to see Elige and Stewie getting into it live during a match.
You know, it was fun. They see eye to eye on a lot of things in game. They always had that kind of connection. Obviously, there's always going to be friction between players too, but they had that kind of connection in terms of how rounds should be played out and the timings of different moves. So they actually worked really well together inside the game of Counter-Strike back in Liquid. Yeah, I think that could be a cool change of complexity. Feel like they can swing for the fence and find someone and believe that Stewie's someone who can come in and give them that extra edge in the mentality department. I hope he doesn't join NRG. They just brought in Nitro, so I think that team will end up standing pat.
You want to put Stewie on complexity? You crazy?
I think it would be. I think if you're
up, Yanko, let him talk.
I think if you're complexity, and I've mentioned this a couple times. I think when you're at like the top of the totem pole in NA, like it's really hard to like work up the courage as like a complexity or a Liquid to go down and build someone up. Liquid's tried it a couple times, and they've never had good constitution of players to help give the environment needed to kind of learn and catch up. But I think if you're complexity and you don't really feel like there's any NA players that you can go down to that are showing enough potential to bring into the team, I think Stewie's like the next best option in terms of saying we need someone who can escalate our team at least one step in the short term and see what happens with that. Like I said, I don't think it's a big risk for complexity because they've hit a ceiling. Like there's nothing new we're seeing out of complexity moving on in any of these tournaments that make us think that they're going to be better in the next one. So, you know, why not get someone who can be a creator, who's not going to shy away from big moments. But other than that, I think his only other option would be starting a team and finding an organization that wants to get into Counter-Strike and actually building it from the ground up. I think he's going to have a hard time just hopping onto a team that he feels is going to be at a competitive level where it's worth his time. You know what I mean?
I think he's way behind, too much behind the curve as a player individually to go to complexity. Like complexity is a team that's top 10 even.
Wouldn't you say
now something?
Wouldn't you say individually though that's like the easiest thing to catch up on? Like who on
Sure,
complexity do you
in theory
think is like so far ahead of him that he can't overcome it? Yeah, I mean in theory.
Everyone.
Let's say everything goes everyone. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. It was obvious that his mechanics were poor because you could tell there were skills that, you know, a player that's just been playing competitively, you know, for at least 6 months before that would be getting and some easier kills. And luckily for Stewie, he had really big moments in a lot of the games where he would have this round or two rounds where he would deliver that. But but I think it's just too high. You know, if you told me like send them to M80 potentially or something along those lines, like Nouns, you know, these teams that are just below, basically anyone that's not complexity and Liquid from NA. I could understand that because he is experienced, he has good comms, right? He understands the game on a high level, so I can see how that could work out. But for complexity, I mean, the complexity should be aiming higher than that. That's my
point though. I don't know if there is like a higher than that for them to go to in NA. You know,
not in North America.
There has to be.
But guys, like it or not, America has a top 10 CS team, a history of being relevant in the sport, and a big fan base. It is just so silly and unprofessional to marginalize that whole market with petty digs and a refusal to give NACS its due. So fuck you guys for talking about complexity in such a negative light. You guys suck.
I've got a cool one for you though. Now this could be a baller play. This might actually break the universe. You ready for this?
Ends to complexity.
You have Stewie come back. He's going to be the first piece of the puzzle. We know that behind the scenes, just kind of chilling, biding his time, grinding the game, getting his skills back, working up his competitive mojo.
Ash your biceps.
Is Swag. He's over here in North America. He's looking at coming back. He's unbanned in 2025. You know who else has kind of flirted with the idea? A nice little in-game leader by the name of Steel. also potentially out there in the world that you could grab onto and say, all right, boys, let's come together for one last ride into the sunset. Let's see what we can do. Give ourselves a year to grind and fucking battle and get better and improve and build a team. You get 2 more NA players, and all of a sudden you've got Stewie, you've got Swag, you've got Steel. You could even maybe convince someone known as Skadoodle to come back if you wanted to get the whole band back together. And all of a
And
sudden,
I
you
reckon,
could go
Jason,
gas.
with all of this, you could rip off a notable organization to pay these players anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month
Fuck
for a
yeah.
period of 6 to 9 months before it burns and nothing happens.
Yeah.
I reckon, Jason, this is a great idea. And while we're at it, I think I should probably get back into professional Counter-Strike. The first 35-year-old to be returning after almost a 10-year hiatus, I think it's probably time, actually. Who should I play with? Yanko, you got any names? Just
Yeah,
start throwing them out
absolutely,
there.
Chad.
Maybe Crystal, Spiddy.
No, there's this guy from down under that's been honing his skills. Top Gun.
Yeah.
is the name.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've heard of him.
Sure.
Yeah, there's another guy who's been a sort of a spiritual trip.
Havoc?
Finding himself, yes, Havoc as well could potentially be an addition. And then, of course, every team needs an AWPer, and who better than Sniper with a Y?
Oh,
Never
shit.
was an
know.
AWPer, but I actually think it would be great to have him on the AWP. Look, Jason, usually you punch up, not down. And right now, NACS needs all the support it can get. So I'm behind you, Jason.
Yeah, let's get it going. Get a little publicity, a little bit of content
What
made,
haven't,
a little bit of marketing.
what haven't
He's
I got from
behind
this
you
Reddit
and-
thread?
with the-
He's whispering sweet nothings into your ear.
Oh, nothing's out there. Bring him back.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
it's great. Yeah, we've
It's all
been
coming together.
overlooking this our entire lives. What have we been doing? What have we been doing?
How have you guys been following this Skyesports championship going on?
I'll be honest, I've only been playing DayZ.
That's fine. I haven't been
I've been a
following the
little
actual
bit
game.
emo
I've
lately.
just been following. I've been following the drama from the competitive conditions out there.
Of course you did,
only
you
like the
fucking
first 2
ambulance
days.
chaser.
Hell yeah.
It was like the first 2 days, and then apparently Kassad said everything's okay. So when Kassad says everything's okay, I think everything's A-okay.
Well, he's been eliminated
So,
from the event now, so let's see if there's anything else coming out because that might have changed his tune.
Well, obviously it's not ideal, right? No one's saying it's ideal, but the event got better after the first day with all the big delays and all that kind of shit, right? Of it, like the prac with the tables and everything. Loba tweeted at me. He wasn't too happy that on HLTV confirmed we were talking negatively about the event. And if Loba, if you one of your guys like links you this or whatever, and you watch this, like I don't mind you, Loba. Like I know you like to get people riled up, and it's fine. I respect it, but it's all good. It's a good shtick. But what was he saying? I want to find the tweet so I'm not misquoting. So when we were doing the last HLTV confirmed, we put out some tweets to see if anybody at the event wanted to call in and talk about the circumstances that are going on, because it was quite dire, obviously, on the first day and with the
yeah, it seemed
rooms
like it
and
was all
everything.
going to shit. One team pulled
Yeah.
out.
And Loba said, "My G, where is the same energy around Blast events? How is it that pros message me about Blast issues and even we see it firsthand, but the talent who expect a job from Blast can't talk about it? But hey, India, well, ... they won't pay you, so you can't talk about them." Loba, we got a couple things we got to cover here, bud. First of all, Blast don't hire me. They already have their commentators. They don't hire me, so that doesn't count. Second of all, what you're talking about with the players messaging you, I've heard from some players as well, mainly like the wobbly tables / monitors and sometimes the PCs not being up to scratch. But the reason that I don't bang on about that, Loba, is because I work primarily for ESL, and some people have done a very good job in recent years of framing me as this ESL Saudi #1 shill. So anything that I say to ESL's direct competitor in the space would just be painted with that brush. So like people will take the fact that I work for one TO and they'll remove any credibility in my words. So it would be pointless me saying those things anyway, because I'll just be seen as a hater of the competitor, right? And the third thing, maybe I already had third, but let's go. This is the third
See
thing.
if you can make it to
Those
5.
players, let's see. The third thing is the issues that you're talking about. The players and teams who play in Blast events, they're partnered events or partner teams for the most part, and they sign a contract with Blast that says that they're not allowed to complain about those things publicly. So if I had the public complaints of the players, then I could talk about it. But because I can only say it behind a proxy, getting painted as this guy that only supports one TO, then it kind of makes my words feel hollow,
Loses
and then
the
people will
punch.
just think that I'm like a cunt, right? So, Loba, I'm with you, man. But also, it's not like Blast miss entire days of tournaments unless we go back to 2017 for their very first event where the group stage didn't have the first play day. Like, there's definitely issues. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if they're necessarily comparable. So I apologize that I wasn't able to justice that position for you, Loba. But yeah, I hope you understand
Also,
what I said.
it's also like a different scale of issues too. Like as you
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
mentioned,
yeah.
like I think the last complaint I heard from out of a Blast event was a player pissed off because the monitor stand wasn't like the square block stand, it was like the V or something, so it took up too much space on the table or something along those lines, something with like the monitor stand. And it's just like that's vastly different from a tournament in India where they're all playing on different PCs of different calibers with different FPS with different pings inside of the match server, right? Like there's,
I think it's just.
there's
I
we
think
can
it's just
draw the line
something.
somewhere.
Isn't there something just fucking hilarious in the fact that BB team lost their shit and like quit the event, and then as soon as they did, everything was fine. Like there were no issues on day 2. They were like, "This is unacceptable. We're pulling out of the tournament," and then after that, no problems whatsoever. Everyone's playing. No one's really mad about shit.
Yeah.
That
Also,
was just hilarious to me. But yeah, I followed a little bit of the tournament myself. Some of the bleed games to see how my boy Kassad is doing, and they got fucked by the round robin because it was a tiebreaker.
oh, is that why they're out?
Them, the Mongols, the Nants were all at 3-2, right? So they lost out on round difference, which is also shitty because the Mongols
They
went
struggled early.
through
Yeah, they went through.
and they lost to both Ants and Bleed, and they beat the other
Oh,
teams.
so if they did head to head first, then they wouldn't have even been in that
No,
conversation. It would have just been Ents and
it was round difference first, which is like crazy to me. The Mongols beat Aurora, Pari Vision, and True Rippers. So yeah, I think that's shitty. And to be honest, I think they only played. I don't know. I only saw them play Mirage. I don't know if they got away with playing like, what was it?
Who Bleed?
5 Mirages. And yeah, no, they played Anubis against True Rippers. Everything else
One map
was,
Andes.
if I'm not mistaken, Mirage.
Man,
What?
I-
Yeah,
One map
they just.
Andes, yeah.
I it's such a shame. I actually really like round robin as a format. I think it's fun, except for the tiebreaker shit, which always causes problems. And it fucking sucks that I feel like we've never been able to. There's no.
Yeah, I'm
good
wrong. Mongols beat 10s actually.
There's no good solution to the round robin tie problem, is there? There's nothing.
No,
Like you
no,
can't.
that's why we don't do round robin.
Yeah, I remember when ESL tried to do that. Like round robin ties would bring all the teams into like a 3-round overtime battle on like a randomly selected map. That was the craziest time.
We
That
did
was in
that
seasons
at,
like
a
3 or
Katowice
something.
one year or something, didn't we?
Yeah,
don't know.
because
I just know
Katowice had the
I
one
know
year
what
where the
you're talking
group
about.
stage was all like it was like 2 8-team groups of round robin, and they did.
No, it
all
was
the-
one of the. Chad's right. It was also a couple of years ago when we were in Kato, only us and you guys were with the players.
Yeah.
It happened in like Dusseldorf when you were in Dusseldorf or some shit.
Yep.
Oh,
I recall
man.
that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think for a tier 2 event, it's probably okay, right? It still sucks in some ways, and it's not the best. It's not the clearest of lines, but I think it's okay to have sometimes. I like variance in formats. I'm always a bit like that.
Yeah.
I think it's I didn't watch many of the games. Like I said, I didn't watch any, but I did watch some. I watched the Mongols game today. And I'm glad that they were able to turn it around with some poor form earlier within that group, because I don't want them to just kind of simmer out. I want them to be able to still be competitive. So we'll have to see what happens there. But I'm not hugely invested in this tournament after the bad taste left in the mouth of like the no power, no internet, the prac rooms, different PCs, all this kind of stuff. It just... the issue for me with that is more, and again, another big conversation I had the other day about how this is going to be policed or regulated come next year when all of these events play into the major. We can't be having events that don't like have a certain standard.
There's going to be more events like
that
this.
could be a problem.
I think there's going to be more events.
Do you
like
think
this.
it's reasonable for teams to expect prac rooms at an event like this?
So when I was playing, we didn't have prac rooms. We only got facilities that were like the E-League. The E-League first E-League season, they had practice space at the venue, So it wasn't open 24 hours. And there was some DreamHack events, maybe 1 or 2 that we played where there was practice space, but again at the venue. And it was literally like a row of PCs and then black curtains separating every team. It was like backed onto each other. So those were the only real times that we ever had those facilities. Otherwise, like I would get on an aeroplane, fly from Australia to an event, and then the event would start 3 to 4 days later, and I wouldn't have touched Counter-Strike until I'd literally sat down to play that and would have updates happen on the plane. So do I think that they should have prac rooms available 24/7? I don't think that's possible for tier 2 events. I think for tier 1 events, it should probably be an expectation. For tier 2, probably no, but then we have an unlevel playing field in a way. I think there should be practice or warm-up PCs of some variety being available at a venue so people can at least get their hands on the game.
They used to do those
before their
warm-up
matches.
stations, right? Like before they did like full-blown prac rooms, they used to have the warm-up stations behind the stage of like 10 PCs, so both teams could sit down and do their bots, and then like, okay, go on the stage and set up, and we'll do walk-ins. So that was kind of, I mean, to answer your question, no, I don't think teams should expect, and I don't think TOs of tier 2 events should be obligated to have prac rooms at those events. But I do think it will become probably a factor that
a bargaining tool.
Yeah. Some TOs will use and say, we will have prac rooms for you. Like, that's why you should come to this event that's also scheduled overlapping this other tier 2 event. I think they'll become, bargaining chips in the whole process versus expectations. But me saying that also doesn't, I think players will expect that. I think that's going to be a pretty big complaint point for tier 2 events next year, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I think teams are just really spoiled by Blast and ESL events and what the standard is to some extent. I think for these, and especially it's not even whether the event is tier 1 or tier 2. It's a new TO, right? So I don't think.
But
how
there's
you can...
also Yanka. Like these guys shouldn't be immune from criticism. They move so many events from like LAN to online or cancelled events or whatever. Like. The idea that this event was going to be good, teams fucking
I'm not saying
themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I'm not saying they should be immune from criticism. I'm saying why would the teams have such high expectations of them to begin with?
True.
Right? I think you were also right. Like what should be the norm for these tournaments is that you have this warm-up station, so you could come in before your game and at least play some counter, right? But the expectation that you will have PCs at your disposal 24/7 in a prac room, I think that's too tall a task for an organizer like this. I think probably it's fair to expect that from your Blast, ESL, PGL, even Star Ladder or these Yala Compass tournaments, but for someone coming out of nowhere, right? I think that's a bit.
Also,
I think people don't understand the expenses behind this, though. Like, think about it. If you're going to fly at the moment, ESL and Blast fly pay, I think, for 7 members of a team. Like, and you're thinking, well, there's only 5 at a coach. Yeah, and they're paying for a manager as well. I'm pretty sure they're doing 7. I think that ESL and Blast should reel back and only do what Valve say. Like whatever Valve has as their official for the majors, that's all that these TOs should pay for. Because I think you're right to some degree, Yanko. They're so spoiled, and the orgs are the ones who actually are making money, or at least it seems like they are, because they can pay players a shitload. So if they want to pay for these things, then pay for them on top. Because think about it from this perspective: if you're a TO and you're providing enough, you're doing flights and accommodation, because this is when Valve does it. I don't give a fuck. For majors, Valve have an unlimited amount of money that you guys opening cases contribute to. Valve are literally they're like per head in their business, they're one of the highest paid in the fucking world. So for them to contribute that, I don't care where their money's going. They should be paying for that shit, and the prize money should be more, and they should pay us too. Anyway, I digress. But
and stickers for talent would be sweet. Yeah.
If you have 3 rooms, right, that's where you're going to have a coach and a player, and then 2 players, and then 2 more players, and then you make up a Counter-Strike team, right? That's 3 rooms. But then if every TO has to have a prac room in the hotel, which is a lot of the time how it's facilitated, now we have 4 rooms. We have 4 rooms. And then if you're like
also,
an ESL
the prac
Blast,
rooms are usually the suites that they have to book out, right? Because they have to be big enough for 5 PCs.
Yeah. Now you got 5 rooms in a hotel that has to be of a certain caliber for the players, because it needs to be this level of hotel for them to even want to stay there. It's like the cost is going through the fucking roof, mate. Like, and this is something we're doing year round, week in, week out. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's fucking great that they have that facilitated to them, but I also think that it's sometimes can be a little bit much.
I actually disagree with you, Chad, that the
Uh-oh.
TOs should
Here we
scale
go.
back because this is the
Scale
one thing
back,
that
Yanko.
because this is the one thing that's not regulated by Valve in the new agreement. So this is actually one thing that
So
can
scale up.
differentiate you from other TOs. And I know that teams will be looking into that, and I know that the hospitality levels and whatnot, and some of these setups are not the same at these different TOs do not approach it the
Same
same,
way, yeah.
right? And I think that's what will determine some of the decisions from these teams coming into next year and
What do
next
you think
season. So
determines
if
it more, Yanko? Location or hospitality?
Location.
a combination of two, right?
Mhm.
Like I think location is going to come first because yeah, like we
dude.
saw from Spirit turn
with Rio,
down
yeah.
the Rio invite, right? I don't think it's because it's because it's in Rio. If that
And it's
tournament
only
were in
100
Poland,
grand first prize.
yeah, I mean the thing is, it's more the Grand Slam really for them
True.
that could come into play by then, right? They need, they could theoretically win Cologne or Pro League. They could win both, and then what? You've skipped on Rio, which is the last event of the year, and you have to wait until next year for an opportunity to close out the Grand Slam. That feels a little bit silly. Also considering that there's going to be like fewer tournaments from that point on. Like that's the final one. I mean, you could have kind of pushed through it potentially, but also I understand it is a lot of stuff happening before it, and then you would really be able to hone down on the major and this other stuff. But it's also because they play these fucking BB tournaments. Like the team like Spirit
They're in Serbia,
shouldn't
right?
really. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for them, it's just like convenient, but that also adds to your calendar.
Better prize
In a
money
sense.
than this event. And that means more for the ranking points, right?
Well, I mean, it's funny because I mean, we talk about expense. Like, I think if you go back to the Skyesports event, they have a $300,000 prize pool. But like, why wouldn't you, if you're them, say, let's maybe like if you're serious about wanting to run more Counter-Strike events and you want to try this again and start winning people over to your side that you can be an effective TO, wouldn't you say like maybe we do a $200,000 prize pool and use that extra 90,000, 100,000 of their prize pool to upgrade the PCs? Get yourself set up for the future.
Well, look, because this is what happens in these things. They're run by novices, and at
Right.
some point, the delegation comes into play. So the delegation goes like, "Hey, we need tables," and they go, "Oh, I know a guy who has tables," and they give it to some fucking intern dickhead who goes and gets tables, and then the whole thing's covered in staples and shit. Like, they obviously know what the baseline is, but unless one person who's competent enough to understand it all,
Yeah.
or after years of running events like a Blast or an ESL, you actually understand what's necessary, right? Then you're going to make these mistakes. It's going to
Sure.
happen, right? Unless one person has the correct oversight. And like what you're saying, Jason, is like the idealistic version of like, oh, let's have less prize money but have better. Like they would have preferred to have just had good conditions and still 300 grand. I don't think money, when we're talking of this extent, is the reason that they got tables with fucking nails and staples in them.
Oh yeah, probably not. But moving forward, it might be an area you want to highlight to some of those people who might have
Oh,
the
I'd
initiative within the
imagine.
company. Yeah, maybe not
I
leading
think
into
they're
this
probably
one,
fired.
but moving forward into the next one, be like, all right, guys, maybe let's create a budget to upgrade, the tables, the chairs, just the basics to make this look a little bit better.
Yeah, well, there
All
are
right.
lots of factors.
Blast talk.
Blast talk.
Is it time?
Blast
off.
Oh, the preview.
You know what?
I'm gonna
You-
run
you know-
outside and collect some food in a second, but I'm down.
Yeah, you know what I realized
Yeah. What do you
is
realize?
super weird, and someone that we also didn't talk about who finalized their roster is Cloud9. And Cloud9 is going to be playing in Group C, first game against FaZe, and it's also G2 and NIP in there, so a tough group. But also, they're not in Cologne and they're not in Pro League.
Yes. Well, they only had 2 members, so
So
they're kind of fucked. I want to say this to everybody playing at home.
that's crazy.
I did reach out to Blast to see next week if I could co-stream. Hopefully, this doesn't jeopardize my chances. To co-stream some of their games or to co-stream their event. And where are we here? Did I send the email? Oh yeah, I did. But
Waiting for a response.
you need to. No, I got a response. The response, because I messaged Frederick, who gave me the emails of the people I need to. But one of the things that they have, which they have like 6 rules, and I can do all of the rules besides rule number 1, which is must broadcast all Blast Premier 4 group games.
Oh,
I don't think I could
damn.
do like 4 best of 3s a day with other stuff that I have scheduled in. So I asked if there was any wiggle room regarding that one, but I haven't heard back about that, which I'd understand if they say no.
Well,
I just
That's
tried.
really
they say
intense,
you
though.
have to co-stream it, Chad. Like you don't have to be there for it. You just leave
Or
your
I could just
PC
leave
on.
the stream on. I could just leave
Just
the,
leave the
you're right,
stream
actually.
on. Have a channel. I will pop in. You know,
right.
for a game.
Yeah, say in the
Yeah.
team speak, just see who
Jason
hops
will.
in. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
you could do like one of those AI streamers. Aren't people doing that these days?
I think you mean like the VR streamers?
Yeah, VR streaming.
Or
Yeah, get one of them. Get
Is
like
it
a
VR
little
or is
VR
it AR?
sponge. Maybe put like googly eyes on a sponge and just set it in your chair.
well, I already emailed saying that I didn't think I'd be able to do all of the games.
Oh, okay, well,
I said hello. Rules 2 to 6 are no issue, but I think I fail at rule 1. I wouldn't be able to cover all games, unfortunately. Is there any wiggle room with that? So we'll see.
We'll see.
I don't expect a reply, but yeah. All right.
I think the some of these Blast games will be cool. Actually, a lot of the games will be cool. We get the new Heroic first look, and also take into account these are teams that had extra time
Heroic?
to practice and prepare. Yeah,
New heroic.
Huh?
did they?
We've seen Heroic with Dexter play.
Yeah, but where?
Yeah, they played. with
Jonkoping?
Dexter.
Did they play it?
There was one event they couldn't, and they had to use Nikodos because they couldn't get. But they've definitely played.
Ah,
with
they
him,
played at Yala
100%.
Compass.
And
yeah, they
Bedlam.
were in Yala Compass. And
The dark
Bedlam?
shirt. Yeah.
Really?
They've done
Oh,
it all.
shit, then
They've done it all.
I
Either way,
kinda-
it's far enough back that we barely remember it, so it is going to be good to see them up against Chad's favorite team of Complexity, North Americans crossing the
I
pond. to get
don't
into the
hate
action.
complexity, Jason. Don't help
I
perpetuate.
said it was your favorite team.
Single
I
out
didn't
Complexity.
I
say
don't
you
even hate
hated
North
it.
American Counter Strike.
I know you don't. I'm with you.
Not according to what's his name.
Yeah, some fucking dickhead on Reddit. Yeah, sorry, no, some contributor. Look,
Or this
stop
group A
skirting
is
around
so
it. Yanko.
ass.
It's all about Liquid.
There we are. It is all about
Yeah?
Liquid. They got the new look Liquid. We get a first glimpse of them. I'm excited. Twist, IGL, Ultimate Alper, JKS coming in as an anchor, Yakinder back to his best self. It's all coming together.
Which group is Liquid in?
They're in Navi Big Virtus Pro in Liquid. Group D.
Group D.
Yeah, all the
Oh,
way at
that's
the
a
bottom.
nice group.
Yeah.
Oh shit, my
It's a-
food's here. Bear back.
It's a tough group to get out of. With VP and Navi, that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, but there are interesting games, interesting teams to watch. First tournament of the season for Astralis as well, and Falcons, and they play each other. I think they
Yeah.
played in the same group in the spring one as well, because it was
I think so as
Zonic
well.
against
Yep.
Astralis, again against Device
have-
and all
do you have
that
any-
sort of.
Do you have any hope that Falcons is going to look better? Like they're going to have actually stepped up and improved upon anything?
I do, because for me, it doesn't really compute. You know, like that team absolutely should have a high floor, right? With the
Yeah.
players that they have, and they have Zonic, they have the performance coaches, they have everything, right? And I know Snappy was saying, you know, he was just playing like shit individually, and that was a cause for a lot of problems. And I don't think we saw the same amount of output from Sampayas on the AWP. So you're hoping that over the break and stuff, they found ways to just do better individually as well. I think Madden has stepped up in that department. So yeah, no, I remember some of the games that we did do of them, some uncharacteristic mistake. You remember that one against G2 in Dallas where
Yeah.
they're flashing Snappy and Monacy's or Nexa is winning a 1v4 against them, right?
Yeah.
Dupree just making weird decisions in clutches where he just needs to let go of the mouse and keyboard, and he's probably won, and he decides to peek for whatever reason. So it was just strange, and you're hoping to see more of them. Astralis as well looked really good for a while until they actually had to start playing Mirage and couldn't really win it a lot of the times, and all of a sudden we found out that's one of their weak spots, which couldn't be the case for Navi as well. We just don't know. I mean, that was a one map against Mouse that went terribly wrong, and they will be playing Big, who has through history of the team loved does too, and actually has a decent track record against NaVi, I believe as well. Just something that fits them, I guess, in a way. Group A is ass. Like Spirit is gonna walk through that
Yeah.
group, and I wish no one else could qualify from that group, but someone will have
Someone,
to for whatever
unfortunately,
reason.
must do.
Yeah.
I think Group B is really cool.
Group
I mean, Gamer
Yeah,
Legion is
Vitality.
whatever.
I mean, I don't think they can. I don't think they can lose to Gamer Legion, but you know, they might uh, find a way to lose to Astralis and then Falcons in the lower bracket, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Like, it hasn't been a great start to the season for Vitality, and we talked about their issues already. And this Group C is actually the most interesting one for me because it has G2. No, I think also because NIP for the first time in a long time is actually looking decent, like with the roster that they've put together, and are an interesting team to watch. They had that grand final against Mongols at Yala Compass that they ended up losing, but that's first game against G2 will be interesting. And then the new look Cloud9, Inters is back, of course. They managed to steal Heavy God away from
That's a good snap.
OG.
OG. Yeah, put Icy in there, which we'll see how it will pan out. I think maybe
I have no expectations. I'm sleeping on Cloud9.
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe if you went and got Art Frost would have been a little bit more interesting then, but it's going to, you want to see more out of Exile, really. So
it feels crazy to say though, like this is probably a really good matchup for them to get in this opening game against FaZe that looked shaky, that still hasn't solved problems, and they're already like known to be pretty consistently shaky in group stages, starting things out and having to play from behind. So if you're Cloud9, you're like, we have an opponent that has weaknesses in this scenario. They have no idea what we're gonna do. Like that's not bad.
yeah, it's a shitty game.
There's upset potential
for FaZe
there.
to have to play. In a sense, it's tough, but FaZe is also a team that understands, like, hey, we're just going to do our own shit. Fuck these guys.
Sure.
They're noobs. We'll own them. And someone corrected me one more time. Only one team from the group goes directly because, yes, of course, what would Blast be without a convoluted format and a system? So yeah, one team goes directly, and then the second place teams play each other for
Blast-
two more spots.
Blast versus Pro League for worst group stage formats.
It is the
Who
worst
wins?
thing caused by the the team partner leagues in the Louvre agreement, the Blast agreement, is these kind of bogus ass formats where it's so hard to fucking drop.
Here.
We've talked a lot about formats today.
I like formats. I'm working on
It's
some
fun
content.
talk, Jason. You can't deny it. It's what the people want. It's what the people love. That's why we get tens of thousands of views on all the episodes. It's
Combined.
the format talk.
And they're all just coming in, just waiting for us to talk.
It's
And I don't do
it's their little-
timestamps. I don't want them to let them know
It's
when
their
the format's
kinky
coming.
little pleasure, It's their kink, their dirty little pleasure.
Their little
It's
secret
listening
they
to
keep
me
in
and
a closet.
Chad talk about formats, and listening to you trying to rope us into talking about NACS,
I love
which we
NACS.
don't give
Let's-
a flying fuck about.
Let's talk about Nouns. Why is Nouns your favorite North American team, Jason?
Oh, they're backed by crypto. I think it's a cool experiment, and
I
Yeah?
did think
Oh.
when we started doing this shit, when we have all these little fucking faces in Discord, that we're doing some kind of crypto Twitter TED talk. How can we sell our shit coin to all of these people to build a pyramid scheme, and then they can go fucking scam all their fucking family members, and at the end of the day, the three of us are walking away with Lamborghinis.
Yeah, that's the next step. You've
All
given
right.
away the game plan. We're gonna do the TC.
That's beer number 3 officially empty for Chad.
We're gonna do the talking counter
Off to
NFT. It's gonna be great.
Off to Ponzi schemes and defrauding people and scamming.
But yeah, Nouns is.
Do you want to
Nouns is
end
cool.
up like you don't want to end up like Rob's, Chad? Just got a Porsche
Leave
and
my
career
boy
over.
alone, man. He just hates CS2. The Porsche is fine. Leave him alone. Come on, man. Leave Robs alone.
He'll be back.
Look, guys, I have some DayZ I want to play.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
What'd you get to eat?
Are we talking to the fans? I got some chicken katsu curry.
Yeah, let's open up for 15 minutes. Fan questions. I'm gonna start a timer on my phone. At the end of the 15 minutes, we'll shut down the episode.
We've
that
lost
work?
30 people.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
that's
because we
fine.
were talking about formats so much.
If we get any shit
No.
questions, I'm just leaving the call without saying anything.
All right, 15 minutes has begun. Countdown.
No
is there.
pressure.
All right. Let's get some hot takes up in here. How good does real beer taste? Chad
It
has
is
the real
overrated,
beer.
Mac. You know that. Mac, as someone who frequents the gym, mate, you get on the swole patrol, you fucking got the gun show. You
But-
know that the alcohol is stalling out your gains. You know you don't need it, Mac. You know it gets in the way.
And Mac, I mean, I'll be honest. I think beer's pretty shit as well. But as someone you're in Saudi Arabia for what, like 3 weeks, that you're never gonna have a better beer than that first beer. That first beer out of country
true.
is gonna be fucking incredible. So you just take a little picture of like a Foster's or whatever you guys drink down there, and just put it up on your bathroom mirror and just stare at that bad boy in the morning, every day. That crisp Foster, Australian for beer.
Yeah. Okay. Foster's. Yep. Great. Thanks, Jason, for that one. Great contribution there. What do we got here? Why does Cologne have so many fans but no German players? Well, it's a central location. I think the history of it being a major definitely contributes into the grandeur around it. And just like Australians or Americans, the Germans don't have any good Counter-Strike players, have you ever attested to? So we just support the game that we all love. Because, at the end of the day, we can't all be good, just like Russia's negative genetics.
Also, Cologne has an event, as you mentioned, like the major status, but it's always just been the unofficial third major. So everyone wants to be at Cologne. It is hands down the #1 event that people tell you should go to. I think there's so many members of talent who have brought their parents to their first esports event, and it's always Cologne because everyone wants them to see it.
Yeah, it really is unique. Just the arena is so big, the stage is always impressive, it's always full, and it always delivers in terms of teams. I mean, looking back, look at the teams that won Cologne in the Lanxess, right? It's never some surprise team out of left field. The biggest surprise we've had was
Bigs around
being
the
in that
semis.
one semis or grand final. Semis
Did they make it to
or
the grand final? That
no,
event?
grand final.
They made
Yeah,
it to
they
the
beat
grand?
FaZe in the semis, and then they played NaVi in the grand final, and NaVi just owned them. But and that's a testament to the format as well, right? That it's always been good in a way that with the best of threes, the best teams get through, and then because of the arena and everything, you have that extra stage CS aspect to it that not everyone can deliver in those sort of circumstances, and you combine all of that, you get a sick ass event.
Sick ass event.
Squota says, are you disappointed that the official esports Olympics won't include CS? Not at all.
Nope.
The Olympics is a dying sporting event. It really just survives on nationalism. It has a lot of sports in it that nobody gives a fuck about. And mainstream sports and media needs us more than we need them, because this is where the next generation of people are. So get fucked. I hope that ends up on the Channel 9 news.
Just to get fucked.
Shout out to Mr. Tankia, or I don't know if that's a 4 representing an A, but one of my favorite users. No joke, no sarcasm there. Just a shout out.
Okay.
That's Mr. Tanky for you.
That's-
It means thin.
Yeah, one of my favorite users. Is it Serbian?
I'm not sure. I think maybe Croatian from all the footy talk while the Euros was going on. Will we ever see Hooksy in tier 1 again? I don't see why not. He turned down Gamer Legion, right? That was like the thing. Probably feels like it's too low profile for him, and we've seen it pay off for people before when you just take some time off, right? And
We call it the JKS.
the JKS, just wait for it a little bit.
Wait for your
So
moment.
we know how hard it is to get IGLs who are experienced, right? Who have led a tier 1 team. Again, let's not forget Hooksy won Katowice and Cologne in the same year. So yeah, I think we will. It's just a matter of time.
Well, let's tack onto that one because I saw a question above about Cadian as well. If we had any insights where Cadian was going, I personally don't, but we can just boil it down. Do you think we're to see Cadian in tier 1 Counter-Strike anytime soon?
Yeah, but not for a little while. I think,
Next
the
year?
same thing, a break is probably good.
After the major?
Well, he was on a
I
pretty
think-
big grind.
Yeah.
Probably after the major. Yeah.
I think you'll probably see Hooksy land a gig before Cadian, or if not before, a better gig.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I agree with that. Cadian's issue is the AWPing in-game leading, whereas Hooksy's just an in-game leader, so it's easier to plug and play him. And I think that there's
And being
teams
a
who
cunt.
could use... Well, I think behind the scenes, KDM might not necessarily have the best rap, right? So that's one thing that might plague him for a little while. But I think that he still has legs to him for sure. Like what he did with Heroic is pretty remarkable, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
I asked about Fnatic versus
They can
Mouse.
get him over to Gaiming Gladiators and put Nikodos on the rifle.
I need to really let Mr. Tunky know that I wasn't being sarcastic. His question about Fnatic versus Mouse NXT, I can't answer that because we've been doing the podcast while the game's on. But I just mean a lot of his contributions. I like his contributions.
Intelligent.
I'm not being
contributions
sarcastic.
to the community.
I like the contributions. Any chance to train or cobble back? Some content that I want to do at Pro League will involve train and cobble, I believe, if we can stick the landing.
I hope Cobble doesn't come back, but I like Train. I like Cash.
Okay. Well,
both. I think all of them.
I think we're going to include
need adaptations.
We're not going to include Cash, but FM Pone's working on a new version of Cash, so maybe the new one could get in. Jason, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I'd even take Train back though. Minimal changes. I think it'd be interesting to see how.
Would you like to see how it plays first? There you go. You'd like to see how it plays first.
Like, I mean, when you get, I think that map could be really interesting to watch, like the interaction of the nades and the smokes, right? Because you have so many deep smokes going down the train lanes on executes and set pieces and little creepy crawly lurks. So you get that smoke blowing open. I think that could be a really fun factor of that map that changes the way it would be played.
Yeah. Will there be anything special for EPL Season 20 since the last one in Malta? I don't think anything special. Probably just do it similar to the last one and talk about the game even less if we can.
As little as possible, actually.
Yeah. If anything, the game will just be on and we might just be, beating each other off. Not literally, but figuratively.
Gus,
as we stroke each other's
nobody
egos.
knows if EPL is moving yet. This is the last season of the current Maltese deal that they've signed. So it's a little bit up in the air. So you'll find out, in the future. Could be the last. Might not be.
Yeah. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
What else we got here?
I don't know. They're all flying.
Something about Vertigo.
Vertigo. I'm amazed at how few teams like Vertigo. I don't know why I'm amazed,
Vertigo.
but no one seems to enjoy it.
Just get it out.
No one seems to enjoy it. Best running TV show you'd recommend at the moment?
Like right now?
Yeah.
I've been grinding The Boys. I watched Generation V or Gen V or whatever it was called,
was cool.
And then I was like, "Oh, this is a spin-off of The Boys." So then I started watching The Boys, and now I'm halfway through season 4.
Okay,
so.
Nice.
I really enjoyed The Bear, but the third season is kind of let down compared to the first two.
I was gonna say Jane and I just started watching The Bear. That's what was gonna be mine as well.
Yeah. That one's good.
How you liking West Wing, Yank? Are you still grinding that?
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy
right.
it. It's been good.
Thoughts on a possible roster change for FaZe if this slump stays all season? Are we prepared to start dipping our toes in that water?
I'll definitely have a roster change if this slump stays all season. I'm more of the mind of what results do they need to get so they don't investigate a roster change.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the problem because, it would have to be a tournament win, really, because they've had a lot of second places even last season, and then it went worse than that. So just getting back to second places, like sure, it will be better than what they had before, like finals, semifinals, but that's not what this team is built for. Like this team is built to win championships, and if you can't do that, then you need to make a change. You're not going to be satisfied just because you're doing better than you did the last 2-3 tournaments, right? Like you need results.
Yeah, that's
great.
Thoughts on salary transparency? We've tried this before. Henry's tried this before.
Henry got flamed for it.
Henry got destroyed for it. I personally would love it, but I don't know how it gets implemented on a scene-wide scale. Because the last person to step out on that limb got fucking annihilated.
Torched, yeah.
Because I don't know. The problem for me is I think the salaries are overinflated for the players. Like it's crazy how high the salaries are. And sure, if you hear that some of the best players, in tier 1 teams are getting 40,000, 50,000, like, yeah, that's fucking a lot. But I don't even have a problem with some of the best players in the world getting like 40,000 a month. The problem is that makes a team that's like 14th in the world having to pay their players like 8K, you know, like something like that, which is 100K. It's $500,000 for a roster for a year. Like that's the untenable, the unreasonable part. Like what it does to these lower tier teams, and because these players now on the entry level are getting paid thousands of dollars, right? Like more than whatever, like 5K plus, 8K plus, which in my mind shouldn't be the case, you know. And I think that's the issue why some of these orgs are also struggling, you know, to make ends meet. A lot of it like goes because that's just like fixed cost that you have no matter what, right? Like no matter how the team is doing, that's going out. And also I think with salaries being that high, there's always going to be an element of the players like, well, you know, even if we're not doing too great, the salary still comes in and all that stuff. If the contracts were more incentive based, well, then the players would obviously also be more concerned about the results and how they perform and how the team does, and doing everything in their power for the team to do better and to place higher and to win tournaments. And, you know, I've always been for, I'll pay you more than what you're getting right now if we're doing well, but I don't want to be paying you an obscene amount of money, you know, just for existing. Did
FaZe contracts not have incentives built into them at all? Like there's like, I mean, this is going to make it
some for like top 10, right?
Yeah, like top 5 ranking, top 10 ranking Liquid.
I mean that came later.
Yeah,
I think in teams or some other orgs even had it at the time, but yeah, it was also something really small, like really basic like that. You know, if you are in the top 5 for I don't know how long, or you know, if you're number 1 team in the world, it goes up by a certain amount.
Yeah.
Spirit has,
but it's already high to begin with. That's the problem, right? Like,
yeah. I think like it should be, our space should be driven by the competitive nature and how competitive are you. Obviously, some people are going to have brands that are worth more than others, and those people should probably be paid accordingly. Like, even back in the CGS, we had like franchise players. It wasn't of the same grandeur, right? 2008 this was, but there was still one person in the franchise who got paid more than everybody else, and that wasn't just Counter-Strike team. That was over FIFA, DOA, Forza, right? The entire thing. So someone was like the more popular person within that position. But yeah, I think obviously the better you're getting results, also the more prize money you're getting, or the further in majors you're going, or the more sticker money you're getting. So yeah, I think like the baseline entry level for orgs getting into CS, it is such a money sink to potentially get no results. Like you want, it's great for more orgs to have teams that can try and be professional, or sorry, not professional, but be competitive. They're getting paid a livable wage, right? There's a difference between getting paid and being average to bad, right? As long as you can live, you should. That's okay. But if you're a great team, then you should. And like,
should get paid.
Like there's certain players who are very good who probably aren't getting paid as much as they should based on how good they are, based on contracts that they got into when they first started in these teams. So, yeah, that might help those players.
And
like
those would be fun.
If we knew how much some of those.
I was going to say, those would be fun conversations if we had the salary transparency. So you could be like, look at this guy, bang for his buck. He's on a rookie fucking contract from the Academy League, and he's performing like an all-star Hall of Fame player. Shout out to Jimmy one time. And then you get to move on to the guys who's overpaid and underperforming and talk about that. But we don't have that.
The players would hate it.
The players would hate it, absolutely. But we'd love it. Last question. There's like a minute left.
Are we doing this? Question from me. Sorry, Sponge in chat. Yanko said something about doing webcam episodes. Is that what we're doing from now on?
We can. We hadn't had that conversation, but we can discuss it.
Well, me and Chad had it while you were working.
Sorry, Jason.
Oh, okay, cool.
I just said, I don't give a fuck.
Cool.
I'm not doing the face on angle though. I'm doing this angle.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
Right. In my room, someone asked.
Get a little boxes made with, what are they called? The little graphic with boxes for webcams.
Oh, fuck that, man.
You don't want that either? Okay, we could just do this.
Keep it ghetto, bro.
Keep it ghetto.
Someone asked, why am I doing the episode from a Stockholm prison, Swedish prison cell or something? It's because I'm moving stuff around the apartment. Let's put it that way. So next week I'll probably be at a different room if I had to guess. But yeah,
I too will be in a different location, not my parents' office from Boomerville.
I won't be.
Yeah, you'll be in the same place. Cool. Well, that was the alarm. So I guess we're done. That last question really took us over the line, Chad. Thank you.
No worries, guys. I'll be here all week.
nice.
All right. Well,
All right.
first live one was fun. We'll have a chat. Apparently, we're doing more webcams. Apparently, we're doing more live stuff. We'll figure it out, and we'll keep you guys updated. And I guess I'll do the Face It thing this week. I'll try and get that done.
Who would have thought we would make it to 100 episodes, guys?
Me?
Not me. Look at us.
Look at us now.
All right.
That's
Nice.
banter.
All right. Good job, everybody.
Where's the jock straps?
Are we leaving?
I have one jock strap.
Peace.
I haven't mass ordered the jock strap, but I do have the only talking counter jock strap in existence at my place right now.
Wow. Model it in Cologne. Live on stream.
Drop the picture in the chat. I could do that.
All right. I'm going.
All right.
Yeah, please.
Later.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. Have good food.